Yes, sir. No, okay. Yeah, well, I guess so. Yeah, because I've got one.
Yeah. Okay, Madam Chair, you are allowed.
Thank you. Welcome to the Monday, June 9th, 2025 Board of Supervisors meeting. This meeting is now called to order. Ms. Whidden, will you now conduct roll call?
Supervisor Lewis.
Present.
Supervisor Day.
Here.
Supervisor McDaniel.
Here.
Supervisor Lyons.
Here.
Chair Ayers.
Here. We will now offer an invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Those attending are not required to participate, but if you'd like to join us, please stand.
Dear Father, we come to you tonight humble and grateful for your many blessings. We ask for safe travels for our citizens as vacation season is upon us. We ask that you watch over our police, fire, and rescue workers. We thank you for our teachers, students, and a successful school year. And we pray for your guidance and leadership as we conduct the business of the county tonight. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will hold citizen comments near the beginning of the meeting. We will do our best to take citizen comment remotely. There are two options for citizens to offer comment. To join by telephone, you may dial into one of the numbers listed on the county website. Webinar ID and password are there for your convenience. Citizens wishing to simply view the meeting live or after the fact can do so on the Rockbridge County Board of Supervisors YouTube channel, also available on the county website. If you wish to make a citizen comment as a Zoom meeting participant, you will use the raise your hand feature. You can press the raise hand button on the bottom of your Zoom window or press *9 if you are calling in by telephone. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No, ma'am.
All right. Recognitions and presentations. Retirement resolution honoring Edwina Schaefer.
We do have a resolution for you, Ms. Delaney, which I'd like to read to make sure everybody hears all the details, everything you've helped us with. So whereas in the 1970s, Rockbridge County established a program under the Department of Recreation to provide preschool children with socialization experiences prior to attending public school. And whereas over time, the program evolved into a preschool experience for 3- and 4-year-old children. Whereas Edwina Dwiney Schaefer accepted a position as a part-time preschool teacher for Rockbridge County in 1981. And whereas children quickly christened her Miss Dwiney, a name which she is widely and affectionately known by to this day. And whereas in 1989, Dwiney became the director of the preschool program, a position she has held ever since. And whereas while in the early years, the preschool program was held in various churches around the county, state regulations eventually made this arrangement problematic. So whereas in an effort to provide continuing services, Dwiney and her coworkers proposed to the board a mobile preschool program using a converted school bus. And whereas the board quickly approved the plan and provided funding for conversion of the bus to a mobile classroom, and the preschool on the bus era began. And whereas for nearly 30 years, Dwiney drove the bus to sites in all quarters of the county and provided a multitude of children with their first classroom experience. And whereas in 2020, it became practical to once again provide bricks and mortar classrooms for the children held in Rockbridge County Public School and Rockbridge Regional Library facilities in Fairfield, Glasgow, Goshen, and Effinger. And whereas Dwiney was and is a gifted storyteller with the ability to hold children's attention, transporting them through many places and experiences while helping them thrive and grow. And whereas through her guidance and tutelage, the children fortunate enough to participate in her program were prepared both socially and academically when they transitioned to kindergarten. And whereas the start that she gave so many children will never be forgotten by any of us, but more importantly, those children, most now adults, will never forget the love or care given to them by their beloved Miss Dwiney. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Rockbridge, Virginia, as well as the children she taught and families she so positively impacted, do hereby express deep appreciation to Ms. Schaefer for her many years of dedicated service to the children of Rockbridge County, and offer sincere congratulations and best wishes for a happy and productive retirement.
Thank you.
Well,
1 second. May I have a motion to adopt?
Absolutely.
May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all of a second. Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Yeah.
Do you have a picture with you?
All right. All right, got it. Thank y'all very much. Madam Chair, this next one, recognition of a new employee, we've been trying to get Brad Zalman, our deputy chief, here for a few meetings, and he is on a call right now. So Chief Ramsey is with us to introduce him, but he's not here to introduce. So we're going to do that at a future meeting. And I think that's it.
Thank you. We will now welcome citizen comments unrelated to the public hearings. When your name is called, please address the board at the podium stating your first and last name and magisterial district. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. There's a timer on the table for your convenience. Is there anyone signed up to speak?
Yes, ma'am. We have Larry Hammer.
And just a point of clarification, I think
Yeah.
notes are wrong. We don't have a public hearing.
Yes, you can speak about the last public hearing.
Oh,
How
okay.
about that?
Thank you for that. I am Larry Hammer of the Buffalo District. Thank you for giving me another chance to speak. According to published information about the joint venture of the golf course with Washington and Lee University, quote, Washington and Lee will have priority use of the golf facilities during 2 3-day Division III golf tournaments annually, and quote, Washington and Lee will have priority rights to the golf facilities and event spaces during a reasonable number of specific dates and times to be determined, including during Washington and Lee Alumni Weekend, Young Alumni Weekend, and Parents Weekend. It's obvious from this statement that Washington and Lee intends to turn the golf course into a golf course with an event center, which will be located in one of the most densely populated sections of Rockbridge County. I have a series of questions. Is the golf course restricted to having special events, parties with amplified music only for their members? And if that is true, what now constitutes a member? Does it include all students and employees of Washington and Lee? Does it include alumni? Could they have a celebration after hosting a college tournament? Can they have weddings for Washington and Lee personnel? Can they use the club as an event center? This appears to possibly be a dramatic expansion of the activities of the club beyond playing golf and directly affects the residents in this densely populated neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I apologize if I mispronounced this. Jochen Arndt.
Jochen Arndt, thank you very much. My name has been butchered many times, so no worries. Members of the board, thank you for your service. Thank you again for allowing me to just say a couple of words reinforcing what my neighbor Larry has just mentioned. So I live on 55 Mossy Green Terrace, which borders the golf course, and as such, finding myself in that position, what happens with the golf course is, of course, of concern to me. I don't have anything against the joint venture per se, but the event center does concern me a great deal. The golf course joint venture will invest money in that event center, and my assumption is that in order to recoup that investment, they want to run a lot of events. And a lot of events in a residential community is, of course, of concern to me and my neighbors, I hope. The number is of concern. And how long, especially on Fridays and Saturdays, the events can use amplified music. During the last meeting, I think some of our concerns were heard and hopefully will find their way into the agreement as you move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, that is all who has signed up.
Yes. You may come up and speak.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Walsh. I live at 301 McLaughlin Street, which is in Lexington, but is just downstream on Woods Creek of the golf course. I just wanted to provide tonight a little more clarification and some detail to explain my comments or further explain my comments from last time at the public hearing. Okay. And I do have a written copy that I'd be glad to provide the county. I'm sorry they're so late, but it's the best I could do. And I do appreciate all of the work that the planning department has done on this. I wanted to just reiterate that the scale of the partnership's water use is orders of magnitude larger than residential use. It is significant. I've done some calculations, which I'll submit. The water use for irrigation, just for irrigation now, is at the most recent rate of 147 million gallons per year, is equivalent to the average use of 2,237 homes in Virginia. That puts it into perspective, I hope, what I said last time. And since the water use for irrigation is concentrated in the warm weather season, the impact is actually even greater on the aquifer. LGCC/WNL's representative at the May Board of Supervisors meeting provided new information that the facility is currently only using surface water for irrigation and not a combination of ground and surface water as we previously understood. Although not currently using groundwater, there were no assurances from the applicant that the groundwater would not be used in the future. And I think this is important. It is up to the county to protect the nearby residents from any potential future commercial scale groundwater use by the facility or any other potential future management or owner. This, condition for the special exemption goes with the use and the property, not necessarily to this owner, if there should be one in the future. It is extremely important because the applicant also provided new information at the May meeting that they have discovered underground piping that brings water from the interbasin transfer from Moores Creek watershed to the Woods Creek watershed, a historical artifact of the construction of Moores Creek Dam and water supply pipeline to the city, which is no longer used by the city and cannot be relied upon as a permanent source of imported water. It is also important to provide for the county to provide for a condition to protect the future fair use of residential water supply wells, because the current DEQ surface water permit that has been cited previously is a grandfathered status that requires reporting only. They have not yet issued their final permit for the actual amounts of use. I think these are reasonable scenarios that would limit the potential future surface water supply and use at the facility, and are a basis for a prudent special exception condition to prevent the overuse of groundwater that would impact future adequate groundwater supply to the neighboring private water well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who should I give the?
You give it to Mr. Suter then.
Give it to Ms. Whitman.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone out there that would, yes? Get to online in a minute, Spencer.
Hello, my name is Tom Contos, and I live in 301 McLaughlin Street in Lexington. I'm not here to oppose any aspect of what they propose to do, but I just would, again, procedurally urge you to take a step back. I think that the current definition that you have for country club was written around the old country club. It was written around a 501, C7 organization where it had members, and those membership dues and their user fees were tax exempt. And then it had a limited for profit component. It could earn probably $150,000 a year in rentals. That's changing now, and I think the current organization uses the term members only in the sense that they register. They have customers that are registered in the same way Costco does. It's kind of meaningless at this point. I would take out any reference to the category of ownership. I would add into that special events, because that's a key part of this. And I would add in, frankly, I would add in private school, because last time I was here, you had 4 dogs being trained, and that was considered private school. I think private school is a very important part of this project because they're going to be having 4 credit academic classes there. And they will be, the performance center is basically a specialized athletic facility. I would just recognize all of those things. I'm not opposed to any of them. I just think it would be cleaner to go back and do this, and also to coordinate with the city, because the city is still considering it to be non-conforming, which does have consequences, even though it may not impact the issuance of a permit. But thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else out there? Anyone online?
No one with their hand raised.
All right. And we will, thank you for your comments, and we will move on to approval of the May 27, 2025 minutes. Has everyone read those over, and do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay. Mr. Lyons,
Yes.
Mr. Day, Mr. McDaniel,
Abstain.
Mr. Lewis,
Abstain.
and I vote yes. County financial report and appropriation resolution.
Yes, thank you for your patience and with myself and staff for getting this report to you late. We had 3 full days of training last week, 4 school payrolls, and of course taxes due, so that put everyone behind. With that said, we have for this period, the amount of bills is $1,426,976.02. Additional appropriations include 3,017 for a continuing education grant for the Commonwealth Attorney, $141,307 for the volunteer agency cost recovery. For economic development, we have $257,492 for the IRF Stillwater grant, and capital purchases $6,816 for municipal management software. As of May 31st, general fund revenues total $53,622,194. Expenditures total $56,121,356, for a year-to-date difference of minus $2,499,162. 92% of the fiscal year has passed. Sales tax collected amounts to $3,906,963, or 88% of the estimated budget. Meals tax amounts to $2,867,935, or 85% of the estimated budget. Lodging tax amounts to $1,339,893, or 73% of the estimated budget. Emissions tax, $301,023, or 86%. And cigarette taxes, $170,465, or 76%. Also included in your packet is the spreadsheet showing month over month comparisons to prior years. So in addition to staff and IT in the school division attending Tyler software training, the chartered accounts is almost complete. Us in the schools will be using the same chart of accounts, and it's been quite the undertaking. And we've also begun work on the preliminary FY 2025 audit. And lastly, just got one more review to do, and we'll have the FY 26 budget book available.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Is there a motion to adopt the resolution? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
And I vote yes. Move on to the county budget appropriations resolution. Mr. Harrison.
Of course, as the board knows, you've already adopted a budget. Before you is the appropriation resolution for FY 26. The appropriations match what was adopted by the Board of Supervisors, which just recap is $65,676,650 for the general fund, $883,879 for the ARPA fund, $2,215,225 for the capital construction fund, and $873,019 for the capital purchases fund.
Thank you. No questions. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
And I vote yes. And again, Mr. Harrison.
And before you is a resolution appropriating funds for the school division. And these amounts match the school division's FY 26 budget. So for Fund 50 is $42,674,427. And for the cafeteria fund is $1,592,492.
Thank you.
And their categories are spelled out in the resolution.
Thank you. Any questions or comments, for Mr. Harrison?
Provide a motion to approve as presented.
Thank you, Mr. McDaniel. Is there a
Second.
second? Yep. Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
And I vote yes.
Thank you again. And again, apologize for the tardiness.
Presentation by the Office of Tourism.
I think we're getting the presentation lined up.
Hold
There we
on
go.
1 second.
I want to thank the board for giving me a few minutes tonight. And I know I'll get extra points for brevity, so we'll rush through these. So of course, our mission is to promote the Rockbridge area. And we do that with leisure travelers, group tours, business travelers, and also sports. Interesting, we were created in 1973. That's when we first started promoting tourism in our region. And Rockbridge Regional Tourism was created in 2001. This is our staff. Our marketing director is Patty Williams. Holly Rogers runs our 3 visitor centers. And then we have 8 travel counselors. And then Eddie Crowder does delivery of all of our brochures. Tourism is an instant revenue generator. We can have an event, promote it, and people will come and spend money. So we don't have to wait for years for them to come. It's instant. We generated in Lexington, Buena Vista, and Rockbridge. This is the most recent data from the Virginia Tourism Corporation. $218 million in traveler spending, and we supported almost 1,900 jobs. So this is just an idea of our hospitality industry here. So we have almost 1,700 hotel rooms, 105 restaurants, 16 bed and breakfasts, and 9 campgrounds, 56 independent retailers, 4 craft breweries, 5 wineries, and 1 cidery, and over 1,000 Airbnbs. So what makes this area a successful tourism destination? All you have to do is look at that photo. We have celebrated downtowns that are walkable. We are a college town, Lexington and Buena Vista, and that brings in lots of students. They stay in our hotels, they eat in our restaurants when it's parents' weekend, alumni weekends. And we have unmatched attractions like the Natural Bridge, the Safari Park, Hall's Drive-In, Lime Kiln Theater. So don't come at me if I miss an attraction, otherwise we'd be here all night. And of course, outdoor recreation is one of our top drivers in Rockbridge County. Our local food, our farms, breweries, and wineries. This is what makes us a successful destination. We also have sports tourism. The Virginia Horse Center, the colleges bring in a lot of other colleges to compete in downtown, and then they also spend a lot of money. So we started using this program called Zartico, and Zartico takes cell phone data and credit card data of people that are in our market. And it's a sample size, but these are where visitors come from. And the next slide is going to tell you our top 10. And if you'll notice, most of our visitors come from DC, Northern Virginia, but the people that come from Richmond actually spend more money. So where do they go? No, visitors by the region. So Lexington, and then southeast Rockbridge, which would be Natural Bridge, and then northeast Rockbridge, Fairfield, Rafine. Now, one thing that we haven't accounted for there that I'm trying to work with the company is that we also have 2 truck stops in Northern Rockbridge. So it's going to get their cell phone data and their credit card data. So that's something that we're working on. And then Buena Vista, and then Northwest Rockbridge. So where do they go and what do they do? They stay in our accommodations, education and colleges. Again, another, like BMI is education and colleges is WNL and SVU. So really those need to be added together. Then outdoor recreation, attractions, retail, sports, agriculture and livestock would be our vineyards and our breweries and our farms like the Lavender Farm. We operate 2 websites. LexingtonVirginia.com is the one that we've had for a very long time, and then RockbridgeOutdoors.com. We get about 250,000 people a year that come to our website. And this is how we build out the brand. Public relations, we use a company, and we're still using them right now, Geiger and Associates, and they are actually bringing another media tour to us this fall. And advertising, we do print and digital. Content marketing would be our blogs and our video, and then digital marketing through our e-newsletter and social media. But this is from Geiger. So far, we've hosted 55 journalists, and the cost that, and we get articles in Travel and Leisure, Southern Living, and the cost it would be to actually buy those spaces would be about $3 million. But we don't, we get them to write about us. Our current campaign is Small Towns, Big Backyard. We have a visitor's guide and a inspiration guide. And so those are our on message collaterals. This is some of the places that we do print and digital. Blue Ridge Parkway Guide, Richmond Magazine, Blue Ridge Outdoors, Virginia Travel Guide. We also do broadcast on online television. And I can send you those examples if you'd like to see our 30-second and 1-minute commercials. Oh, down. The sound wasn't working. Email marketing, we have a list of people that want to hear from us. And this is an example of one of our emails that we've sent out. The industry average for open rate in travel and tourism is 16.2%. Our open rate is over 17%. And then our content marketing, this would be when we write blogs or we post on our social media and we boost those and send them to audiences that would visit us. We have lots of regional projects, but this one is one of the ones I'm most proud of, and it's called the Shenandoah Beer Works Trail. It actually launched in May of 2016, but we started a passport program in December of 2017. And this is so people can get a t-shirt. We've had almost 10,000 passports completed, and that is about 72,000 brewery visits. And then, of course, we came and talked to you guys about this a couple of weeks ago, the VA 250. We have an advisory committee, and we are meeting tomorrow. So what's new? We have CrowdRiff, which is a platform that we use for user-generated content. So if you have an Instagram account or a visitor has an Instagram or Facebook account that's open to the public, we can ask for permission to use those. Like when I showed you the outdoor recreation slide, 2 of those were from visitors that had been here before. Zartico is, of course, the research that I've been showing you. The STAR report is Smith Travel Research, and that tells us hotel occupancy monthly. And then most recently, we've hired Eddie Alexander out of Roanoke, and they are going to do the strategic plan for us. And we have 2 focus groups. I'm sure you all got an email about it. There's one on June 12th at the Horse Center and June 17th at the Virginia Innovation Accelerator. And this is our timeline for that. We started in May. We plan to have all of their recommendations by October. Is that any questions?
Sure, I probably maybe have seen it, but you mentioned back to page 11 on the on message collaterals, what they call it, inspiration.
We have an inspiration guide and a visitor's guide. Yeah, I know our partners with economic development really use the inspiration guide. It's not about having listings of businesses. It's about telling the story of Rockbridge County.
Anything else?
Thank
No?
you.
Thank you so much.
I'll just note that Cheryl's doing this with all 3 partners, cities of Lexington and Buena Vista as well. So she's giving everybody the same information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
All right, move on to loan consideration, Glasgow tanker repair.
Chair, members of the board, thank you all. as noted in your packet, this is a request for a loan in a sense to the Glasgow Volunteer Fire Department, but I will kind of back up and recap how we got to here. If you recall, back in 2022, we had a similar request for repairs to an engine that preempted us to put in a policy and a procedure in place that you all approved back in 2022. One loan per department up to $20,000 with a small percentage fee there. And essentially what we're doing is advancing on the budgeted allotment amounts. So what will happen is if you all approve the request, well, the department has to submit a request, justification, that sort of thing. It'll go to, depending on the meetings, the volunteer association for approval, comment, things like that. Now the volunteer association meets every other month, so we weren't able to meet this month ahead of this request. But Chief Reese has been sent the same information and has approved the request based for the association. We will brief the association at next month's meeting, third Tuesday in July. But the department submits a request justification for that. And as I sent the proposal, the initial request invoice amount estimate from Atlantic, which is the company where we'll do the repairs, is $14,126.22. The request that Chief John Hill provided is in there as well. And a little background, it is for a 2000 Pierce Dash tanker that's replaced a 1989 tanker that obviously they had for a long time. But in preparation for preparing this vehicle for lettering and doing some pressure washing, the computer screen, it has a one-touch digital screen on the side of the pump panel, got damaged. And it's an unexpected repair that in order for it to be put in service and to be utilized properly and function properly with the pumping of water mechanism, it does require replacement. So in the request or in the package was the request from Chief Hill. And as I mentioned, the association president, Steve Reese, has approved the request. We did brief the Public Safety Committee as I got this request on the exact same day that we met. So that was timely, which Public Safety Committee supports, and also provided a breakdown. What will happen is, if approved, we will write a check for the amount of the repairs, and then it will come out for the next 3 fourth quarter payments, as you all have that schedule in front of you. Same as what we did prior. So they will actually be deducted from the fourth quarter allotment in June of next year.
Right.
Any questions?
Any questions for Chief Ramsey?
Who was doing the washing and preparing?
The volunteer, the department membership, yeah.
I make a motion to approve the request.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Lyon?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Thank
you. Scheduling a public hearing for tax exemption, Mr. Dryden.
The General Redoubt, which is a 501c3 charitable organization, has submitted an application for a tax exemption for a piece of real estate property, a building and land, which they have in Rockbridge County, to the Commissioner of the Revenue. As part of that process, we need to schedule a public hearing to consider whether or not to grant the property tax exemption for that property. And the purpose of this is to bring this before the board to set a date for a hearing. If you'll notice, I actually was looking at the month of June calendar. I wrote July 23rd, or actually board meeting July is the 28th. So the earliest we could schedule this for would be the 28th of July. and or the board at its discretion could do it at a later date.
Looking at the schedule now, is there any objections with the staff? Mr. Suter, any objections with having it on the 28th? Can we think of any reasons we would put it off?
I cannot. It's my understanding that, if there's a request made, there needs to be public hearing. So if that's when the board would like to have it, I don't see any reason why not.
Since we'll only have one meeting in July, though, will that meeting be filled or do you think you'll have room?
It's hard to tell. It really is. I mean, we've got a few things on the agenda already, but we never really know.
To both those points, maybe we just err on the side of only one meeting could be larger and set it for one of the August meetings where we might have a little more flexibility.
You could set it for the
Second.
only meeting in July, which is the second meeting, or you
Oh,
can set it
he
in
was
August.
saying in August.
Oh, in August. Okay.
And I would prefer the second one because the second one's always the lighter one.
Oh, I apologize. I was conflating June and July. One meeting left in June, only one in July.
Alrighty, what is the second meeting in August?
25th?
The 25th. Is that your motion?
I'll make one. Yes, ma'am.
I'll second it.
Okay. Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Update on branding trademark.
First, I would like to thank you, Chair Ayers, and the rest of the board members for this opportunity to present my report. As you know, in early 2024, the county launched our new brand identity to reflect the community's values, history, and potential. In an effort to protect this identity, staff recommends the county pursue registration of its branding elements, including the logo, seal, and associated design assets as trademarks and/or service marks with the Commonwealth of Virginia. While municipalities are not required to trademark their symbols, doing so provides an added layer of legal protection, brand consistency, as well as credibility and professionalism. This is an established practice that several other localities in Virginia, including the city of Norfolk and the town of Leesburg, have taken to preserve control over their brand assets. I have done research on the registration process, and after reviewing my findings with County Attorney Dryden, I believe the process to be relatively straightforward and cost-effective, as the fee for registration is only $30 per symbol and classification. Additionally, registration itself, if approved, is valid for 5 years. When I spoke to the Virginia State Corporation Commission, I was informed that the logo or symbol must be in use under each of the classifications you are applying for. With that in mind, I recommend that we file for trademark class 16, which covers printed matter, stationery, and paper goods. Trademark class 25, which covers clothing and promotional apparel, and service mark class 35, which covers business services, administrative use, and advertising. As an additional protective measure, the board may also consider adopting a county ordinance that prohibits unauthorized use of official marks and outlines penalties for that misuse. These steps will ensure the county's brand remains a trusted and protected asset across public and commercial interfaces. Therefore, I ask the board to authorize staff to proceed with the registration of county branding assets as trademarks and service marks with the Commonwealth of Virginia, and to consider whether the board would like to pursue a local ordinance governing local logo usage. Thank you.
So the action would be to authorize staff to file
All the
for trade.
registration for our probably most likely the seal and our new branding.
Gentlemen,
How many, it's good. I agree with you. It's a good thing to find out. Just wondering, so we've got 3 classes.
Yes, sir.
So at $30 a piece.
Yes, sir.
How many logos or images are we thinking about?
So it likely include the seal, so that's one. And then there are, I think, 2 or 3 variations of the county logo that we are considering.
Well, and I mean, so I guess I was getting that patch on Chief Ramsey's shirt, which we also worked very hard on, which looks really good. Is that an image that would also need to be a separate image that would need to be?
That's up for consideration. It was not part of, you know, what I was looking at when I did the research, but if that is something that we would like to protect, it is very doable.
I don't know that maybe we don't need to. It's just a thought, you know, we did the logo first but you know, that couldn't exactly work for all the ways we wanted to use it. So
yeah,
if it patches, it's sort of separate. We might want to protect that too, but all right, just thought y'all.
No, I agree. Mostly, at first we were looking at the new branding, but I think it's a good idea for the seal and patches as well as you guys see fit.
So we need a motion to file for the trademarks and including that image.
If yes, I mean, as Connor gets farther into it, so I'm not sure exactly how to say that.
Or at the discretion.
Yes. Yeah.
I would say to include any and all images that we came off of the branding exercise that we did.
That you all think need to be protected.
That is very doable.
Is that a motion that you can work with?
I mean that you might, given that this would be ongoing, you might want to. The only concern I'd have is if we have a new economic development director comes in and decides to do, you know, 50 or 60, which I don't think is what we anticipate. So I don't know if there's any language you could do to slightly limit it, but otherwise, yeah, there's no issue legally for approving it.
I'm just looking for the proper motion
Oh,
that
sure.
you want.
Oh, yeah, then I would say make a motion to approve, and you're asking for to approve the trademark, the filing for a trademark protections for the properties identified. We can call them properties identified by the economic development staff.
I mean, we could include any, you know, design that came out of that branding project.
Yeah.
Like to John's point, we don't want to get crazy with it. I mean, you know, we know we need the logo. I'd say we need to patch. Maybe there's one more or something out there. I think
Well, you could ask that they would run this by what committee is this done for the board?
Well, Mr. McDaniel said everything that came out of the branding, could we limit? That's a
Oh, sure, yeah,
that's
yeah.
a limitation.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, that's right. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to raise an issue that may not even be an issue, but just something that crossed
I don't
my
know
mind.
if issue, John. We don't need.
Well, the lawyers are supposed to look for issues, so there you go. Good job.
So how about all trademarks and images that came through the branding
committee?
Would that also include the seal?
Right.
Or you know, we can add that on.
It's seal and all trademarks and images.
I move that.
That one.
All right, if our lawyer says we can go on, we will do that. Mr. Lewis has a first. Is there a second?
Sorry.
Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Mr. Day. Yeah. And I vote yes.
Thank you.
One question I have, you mentioned possibly looking at county ordinance prohibits unauthorized use. Will you and Ms. Flint be working on that, or will you be passing that on to our county attorney, or will you be passing through community development? Where is that?
I mean, it is something I would have no problem drafting something out. Obviously, I would send it to Mr. Dryden for approval, and then we could present it at that point if that is something you would like to
Given that
pursue.
our community development office is a little shorthanded right now, I would appreciate it if you would lead that charge and give it through Mr. Dryden.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mintz. Okay, we will move on with the Country Club and the W&L joint venture. Is Mr. Whitmore online? Yes, I see him.
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Madam Chair, before we get too far, something I need to read
Oh, excuse me, yes.
before
Hold on.
everybody gets started. Sorry, Mr. Whitmore. Hold on one second. I abstain from all matters, discussions, and voting related to the application for special exception permit for the improvements of the existing Lexington Golf and Country Club in the R1 zoning district. And my disclosure statement regarding required is on file with the clerk to the Board of Supervisors regarding code 2.2-3115F.
Thank you. And now to you, Mr. Whitmore.
Yes, so general item 13, LGCC W&L Joint Venture LLC, 141 Country Club Road, Lexington, Virginia. Application for a special exception application for the expansion of the existing Lexington Golf and Country Club in the residential general R1 zoning district. And to bring everyone kind of up to date on this, at its May 14th, 2025 meeting, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the application with a specified set of conditions. And then at its May 27, 2025 meeting, the Board of Supervisors held the public hearing on the application, received public comments, and closed the public hearing. Mr. Orson discussed the details of the plan, and staff reviewed the conditions that were recommended for approval by the Planning Commission. During discussion, the board considered items of concern, which included the noise and lighting associated with the planned pickleball, pool, and playground facilities, the increased noise and its impact on surrounding property owners during hours of pickleball play was a topic of concern. The board discussed a variety of noise mitigation strategies, such as acoustic panels associated with the fence that will surround the courts, additional landscape buffers, and specified hours of operation. Environmental impacts associated with the project were discussed. Concerns were raised about water testing of streams and private wells, both prior to implementation of the project, during construction, and after project completion. The question was raised as to how many private wells are in the area that could be affected, what water quality standards the test would be measured against, and what levels of certain substances would be considered acceptable or non-acceptable. The discussion of testing water from both streams and wells included what chemicals will be tested for, the timing and availability of the test results, and what measures will be taken to protect adjoining landowners and citizens if test results showed increased levels of chemical substances. Additional discussion included where chemicals for turf maintenance would be stored on the property if that location was outside of the floodplain. The purchase of environmental credits being used outside Rockbridge County was also raised as a concern. At the end of the discussion and upon motion and vote, the board tabled the item until their regularly scheduled meeting this evening, Monday, June 9th, 2025. And so the conditions that you have in your packet are those that were advanced by the Planning Commission and with a recommendation for approval back at their May 14 meeting. I'll turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, I'm thinking on how to proceed. And I think the best course of action would be for us to take each one, go from 1 to 12, that the Planning Commission, and see if there is any tweaks, anything that anyone wants to add, delete, improve, whatever. And because what we're ultimately looking for is a consensus among us so that we can move forward with this. Move forward. So the first one, do we have it up there for anybody that would like to see it?
And Madam Chair, I can go back through them if you would like or not.
I think that we should do that. Let's just.
Okay. So once again, these are the conditions advanced by the Planning Commission.
We're just going to do one at a time, okay?
Condition number 1, substantial compliance with the schematic plans prepared by Perkins and Orson titled LGCC W&L Joint Venture LLC, Lexington Golf and Country Club, dated March 24th, 2025, with a revision date of April 30, 2025, with the allowance of pickleball courts and/or tennis courts in the area shown as pickleball courts.
Thank you. Everybody fine with number one? So we will move on to number two.
Condition number 2, hours of operation for the pickleball courts, outdoor swimming pool, and playground area shall be limited to 8 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Mhm. My only comment I have on this is, for me, this is really dependent on the mitigation involved. So perhaps that time frame is fine if there's no, if it's not disturbing and enough mitigation of the sound and the lights and everything are in place, then I think that those are fine. How are you feeling about that? Although, what is the current, I guess the question isn't that longer than the current swimming pool? They're not open at that period now, I don't believe. Is this an expansion of the time of the outdoor pool? Do you know that, Mr. Whitmore?
I do not, Madam Chair. I do not know the hours of the operation of the current pool.
Yeah, Madam Chair, it would be appropriate, since we have two representatives of the country club, to ask them questions. They could step up and answer your questions.
Either one. Is this is this currently what the pickleball courts or not pickleball, the tennis courts and the pool is operating at?
No limit on the tennis and pickleball currently.
Okay.
And the pool, I don't know exactly, but it's certainly not an expansion of it. No.
Okay. You're open until 9.
There's no current limitation on the pickleball court.
Okay. And your pool is open every day from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m.
I believe so. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. Thank you.
Certainly, they're there till 9. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on number 2?
Is there some concern about amplified music?
For me, it's going to fall out of the special exception, so it would not seem that would be a good place for amplified music. And Neil, does this, when we get to amplified music and the special exception, that does not, is my understanding, it does not cover the pickleball courts and the swimming pool. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, that would come the event pavilion, and the details of that will come with the future special exception.
Right, but that will not restrict the music. So if you don't say you're restricting amplified music there, it won't happen, correct?
Well, this condition number 2 is specifically for that group of facilities of the swimming pool and playground and pickleball courts. The event pavilion could be addressed in a separate condition with a separate discussion, if that's what the board would like to do. Okay.
So restricting amplified music is wise if that's what we would like to do under number 2. Is that your answer? Oh, sorry.
Well, and in part because this condition number 2 and these associated uses would be, in a sense, almost daily or continuous uses, where the event pavilion would be more scheduled or sporadic or targeted on certain dates.
Okay. Mr. Day, does that answer your question there? All right. No other question. We'll move on to number 3.
Number 3, compliance with section 1303.03, general lighting requirements, section 1303.04, general design requirements, and section 1303.05, parking lot lighting of the County of Rockbridge land development regulations. And this is direct from the the LDR, as we call it, and covers those areas that are focused within it on a variety of projects. So that's specific to the LDR.
Gentlemen, anybody want to address any of this? We have many people that are worried about this particular, Mr. Whitmore. So if you could help us, what I understand is that the parking lot lights would not necessarily be, that there special requirements for parking lot lights in residential districts that are different than they would be in business districts?
Those would be, in a sense, subject to VDOT regulations and the movement of traffic on and off a specified property. And those, in this case, would be, referring to the schematic, would be the parking area for facilities 1, 2, and 3, the clubhouse, and the event pavilion. And then across New Cameron would be the pickleball, pool, and playground that we're just discussing previously as well. So those two areas are the primary parking areas where patrons would be coming on and off and parking their vehicles.
Mm-hmm. I think most of the concerns have come from the across the street, where there would be residential housing on 3 sides. And from what I understand, this, if we just go by the ordinance, it would allow 25 feet poles. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. That is my understanding. There again, those are VDOT regulations that are embedded in the LDR with that, and they would be in a sense standard for parking facilities associated with other venues as well.
And per our land development regulations, that doesn't just apply to parking lot, it applies to other avenues of lighting as well on the property. The 25-foot maximum.
So all lighting has a maximum of.
That's my understanding. It's the design requirements portion of the land development regulations.
Right. I'm really, this is one of the parts that I'm having the most difficulty with, is protecting, making sure the lighting in that area stays, because it's very close to people's bedrooms, and, they're especially on the, as I'm facing on the left-hand side. So I would feel very comfortable if we could have the minimum be the ordinance, but have this worked out with the zoning and with Chris later. Can you help me with that?
Well, and I will also say, Madam Chair, is that as the other facilities are constructed, the clubhouse, the event pavilion, and associated structures, they will come up for site plan review and could also have specific lighting requirements that is standard practice as a site plan review. It goes under essentially review during the building permit process.
Right, but there's ways to get to the standards, some that are not as problematic for the neighbors. Can we agree?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I'm getting to. Obviously, there's a certain standard of safety standard, that sort of thing, but there are things that can be implemented that would protect neighbors from lighting that was too much. So am I right there, Neil? There is flexibility.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yes.
So that's what I am trying to get to. I'm trying to get to a wording here that will allow that to be worked out at a later date without having, I mean, that's we could have them come back, but it also could be worked out in the office with the applicant. So, Mr. Dryden, do you have any suggestions in how I can word this, or my suggestion for wording there?
Wasn't it already on the plans that
Actually, no.
that lighting is limited to fixtures with a maximum height of 25 foot and a maximum spill at any property line of 0.1 foot candle?
Well, a maximum 25 feet in that to me is too much. If you're talking about one that's within 50 feet of somebody's bedroom, I'm just not comfortable without a plan that takes into consideration the people that live around them.
I will add that per the plan, that note is specific to the court and pool lighting as well.
Sorry.
Per the plan, that lighting is the limit, maximum height of 25 feet is limited to the court and pool lighting.
So across the street, it would be the same thing, right?
But it'd be subject to the LDR, which is 25 feet. So yeah, it's 25 feet everywhere. Yes.
So it's 25 feet everywhere, which might be perfectly appropriate, on one side of the road, but not appropriate in the middle of 3 sides with houses. That's all I'm getting to, and would like some way to.
Madam Chair, for me to understand, it's what we would like to do is enable zoning administrator on a case-by-case basis to make a determination if better lighting under 25 feet would be more appropriate. Is that how you'd like to?
Correct. That it should be subject to the approval of
Zoning administrator.
the zoning
And I
administrator.
would want to make, I think the issue for here would make clear the zoning administrator is empowered to make the decision,
Happily.
more restrictive decision than the LDR.
Yes.
I
Are the
think that-
lights going to be on after the playground and pool closes?
Yeah.
I mean, are you gonna, I would think it would make sense if you were running a pool and a playground and a pickleball court and you had a closing time at 9 o'clock, you'd turn the lights off. Why would you keep them on any longer than that? I'm just thinking you use the pool during the summer and the lights probably don't come on till on a sunny day, 8:15, and then the pool closes at 9 o'clock. And once the pool closes, the playground's closed, and you're not gonna. They're not gonna. It'd be foolish to run lights all night long, and I would just think it'd be a waste.
That could be a very good solution, one that our zoning administrator could come up with to solve the issue at one of the. But right now, there is not specified in here that the lights need to go off at 9 o'clock.
Well, we could add that. Lights will go off 30 minutes after closing.
Yeah, I think you want to carve out for VDOT exceptions because the parking lot area will be covered by VDOT. And
Would the parking lot be covered by VDOT, a private parking lot? No. No.
Mr. Orson, would you help us here in coming up with?
Yeah, VDOT has nothing whatsoever to do with our parking lot. They don't want to be involved. They won't be involved. There's no standard for private parking. The VDOT's out of it. It seems a good solution to turn the lights off 30 minutes after closing or 15 minutes after closing, whatever. They'll be on a timer. And so certainly if no one is there, we will want to turn the lights off. So that might be the solution.
Do you have a lighting plan that's more robust than what we currently have?
No, we do not have a lighting plan. The plan, because it's a special exception, we didn't want to come back. We put lighting on there. We're not currently actually even planning for lighting as far as the courts. There will be security lighting on the parking lot, which is generally half a foot candle, a design value, which is
On
very
a
low.
pole that's what?
The current shoebox lights that are out there, we're not even sure that work, but a typical height, I don't know that I want to limit it here because of course you get better lighting the higher you go with less electricity and all those things. But it would be a normal parking lot light that would be 15 or 20 feet. But
So do you,
I think the parking lot on the country club side is not most of your concern.
no, it's,
And we
it's,
wouldn't really light that a bunch. So if you wanted to put a lower pole height, it would be kind of arbitrary because I'm not smart enough to know. But if you wanted to put a lower pole height on that side, certainly we could live with that.
would you object working with the develop, as that plan is fleshed
Not
out?
at all, not at all. And I
Okay.
do think, and you and I didn't agree on this, but I do think the dark sky compliant fixtures are an incredible resource to kind of standardize what we mean. And those are full cutoff optics, so no light can go higher than horizontally and whatnot.
I
So
would
think
love, I
dark
would
sky
love,
compliant is a
I
good
would
thing.
love to add that.
I don't want, just because I'm not smart enough, I prefer not to put dark sky compliant on if we ever light the tennis courts, because maybe the reflected light off the surface or something doesn't comply.
Mhm.
But as far as parking lot lighting, I think if we said dark sky compliant, which you guys find out what that is, it's a organization just to save our light pollution. I think that would be appropriate.
Mhm. And to be fleshed out with the,
Yeah,
okay. for-
yeah, I think we're good with that.
Okay, I would really appreciate that. I think that would make a lot of people more comfortable to have that.
In many
reviewed.
jurisdictions, that would make me nervous. With your staff, it does not. I think that's very appropriate.
I appreciate that very much.
And if you did decide to light the tennis courts, you're not gonna light them if nobody's there. You're gonna have a switch so when people came to play, they would turn it on and then it would go off.
Usually timed.
I think, I do think our current ones are timed.
Right.
And I don't know how people get them to come back on. I don't
Go
know.
back and turn them back on again. But if you know they're closing at 9, they're not gonna come turn them on in the middle of the day to play tennis.
Right, that's right.
So if, thank you very
you.
much.
If you would like, I mean, I've got the LDR pulled up here. I can read a bit of it if you would like, or I don't have to.
Well, I think that we could state our intention and then have that worked out with Chris's office once those plans, and I'm sure Mr. Dryden can word this for me so that we get this correct and we can move on. And then can we, do you want to give that to us now?
And
the wording that we had discussed?
I think we need the wording to determine whether we want to approve it or not. Now, it is my understanding that also would, because the Dark Sky IDA, the International Dark Sky Association, does have a fixture certification process. So are we requiring that they use the IDA compliant fixtures?
My idea today is to simply state the intention and have those worked out between the applicant and our office.
So why don't we, if some language, the language that we have now currently starts compliance with section 1303.03, section 1303.04, and section 1303.05 of the County of Rockbridge Land Development Regulations. Any lighting plan shall be approved by the zoning administrator, and all lighting plans shall, should we want to put aspirational language? They shall aspire to be in compliance with the dark sky, or should we just zoning administrator, leave the zoning
Well, I
administrator?
don't mind saying aspirational, but it's really
We
up
would have
to
to say
Chris's
aspirational.
office, and if that's works out.
I have to voice a little bit of concern about putting that all on the zoning administrator. It's not here right now. Neil could weigh in as well, but it would put the zoning administrator between neighbors and the applicant, I'm afraid.
Well, and what if, the zoning administrator, whatever they come up with, you may agree 100% with. I may not agree with it. I mean,
Okay, do we want to sit here and not agree then here? I'm, I have full faith in the applicant and the office coming up with, with lighting that will protect, fill its purpose and protect the neighbors. Absolutely. And that's all I'm recommending that happens, but leaving it open that the lots can be, that it can go to 25 feet without that worries me. And we can just leave out the lighting and have the whole thing done. I don't want to do that because then it is more of a public and difficult process. But
Well, and Madam Chair, I'll just say here, just for informational purposes. So the dark sky compliant is not an ANSI certification. It is general practices that promote or advance dark sky compliant, in a sense, awareness. And there are usually 5 or 6 practices, as Mr. Orson said: no lighting above the horizontal. There's also some soft lumen, if you will, language in there. And as Mr. Dryden said, it focuses on fixtures, but it's not a specified code. So we could work with those best practices to achieve kind of a direction in there, but it's not a direct standard. And I just put that in for informational purposes.
no, and I appreciate that. And that's why that's why it should be an aspirational work with these guidelines to achieve X. That's what I would like.
And I think we, as the Office of Community Development, we're comfortable working toward achievement of a certain level. But what I'm saying, we can't, there's not a definitive standard. It's kind of an aspirational thing.
Yep. Understood.
And one thing to keep in mind is our regulations do address some of these things. So we have, line of sight glare and other things that are actually already addressed within the LDR regulations, to which they would be required to abide by. So we do have some of that protection there.
I am so sorry.
But and Neil, if I understand correctly, does would when the lighting plan comes in place, would that come before your office?
Yes, for site plan review. Yes,
site plan review. So there is so we already do have the zoning administrator having to do part of the site plan review. We could put, if the board wished, we could put language in there explicitly stating that the zoning administrator has the authority to require stricter than we have already in our LDR. Because
okay,
if that's what you like, so we could, the language could be as we read, compliance with such and such sections of the County of Rockbridge land development regulations. Any lighting plan shall be approved by the zoning administrator, and the zoning administrator is authorized to require additional steps to require stricter standards than are outlined in the land development regulation.
Right.
Just a question. Why?
Yeah, well, it's not a reading that's coming off the top of the head there, but so compliance with section 1303.03 general lighting requirements, section 1303.04 general design requirements, and section 1303.05 parking lot lighting of the County of Rockbridge land development regulations. Period. Any lighting plan shall be approved by the zoning administrator, who is empowered to require stricter standards than are contained in the land development regulations. And so if it makes sense.
That almost sounds like you're forcing him to make it more difficult.
Why would you need to say more stricter? Why don't you just say the best plan available? That's what's provided. That's what's provided.
Or you can just leave that whole part off and just say the zoning administrator, so any lighting plan shall be subject to the approval of the zoning administrator.
That's all I'm after.
It sounds like what we have now, we have the applicant willing to work with the zoning administrator. So we ought to have a level play field. And if we're saying, no, he can make it stricter, well, and he's not really working with the applicant, they need to work on it and come out with an agreement. There's got to be a little trust in people.
Now, for procedural purposes, maybe we suggest that we put down this language. It seems like if the supervisors seem to be okay with that language, maybe instead of voting on every single change, maybe we just record these and then read out the changes at the end and have vote on one motion for amendments.
Well,
Or would you want to vote
I feel
per
like we're almost
each time?
there. Mr. Orson, did you have something you want to add to this?
Just this, respecting what Spencer said about putting Chris between us and the landowners. I mean, that's respecting that and respecting what this side is saying. I get all of that. As far as lighting, there are so many creative ways and good things that we can do, and fixtures that we can use, and different colors of lights that we can use, softer lights. There's so much that we can do that we can get along with Chris and figure this one out. That it's the weirdest condition. It seems to be a very weird condition, but I think it's something that we can work with. Understanding what you said, understand what you guys are saying, and I appreciate it. Because normally I'd be up here beating the table. You guys have a lighting ordinance, I'll just follow the lighting ordinance. That's what I'd be saying usually. But I think in this condition, in this case, I think this is something we really can do.
Subject to the zoning approval.
Yeah,
I mean,
and as we go on more numbers, my position might change. But on
understood.
this item, I think this is something really we can do, Spencer, don't you? I think
I have no doubt it can be done. I like to take as much pressure that office has to make a tremendous number of decisions to start with. And if they are forced to be subjective in their mind, I get the spirit of it, certainly.
Yeah.
But the subjectiveness of it gives me a little bit of pause and puts
but
some
the
pressure.
alternative, if we come to a decision, is that it comes out completely and the applicant has to come right back into their office again. So that's another possibility.
lighting won't be on the critical path, and if we need to appeal a decision of the zoning administrator, there's a way to do that, and it'll be no fun, and we won't like it, but there's a pressure release there. So again, your concerns are exactly correct, but I think we can do it.
Just to clarify, did you want any language about the no lighting, all lighting will be turned off after 30 minutes after, or because we did have the 9 o'clock and there's discussion about that. Do you want that in there, or should we just leave it as it is?
I think it's common sense. We just put it in there. All lighting will be shut off 30 minutes after closing time.
And
I don't think you can do that for the parking lot because you may have people parking there.
And they will have.
Well, the parking lot doesn't have a closing time. I'm just talking about.
You're talking about swimming, pickleball.
I think people were concerned about the pickleball courts, which don't even have lighting yet. The swimming pool and the playground, which probably wouldn't have lighting either.
My suggestion would be that we'd put that in number 2 then, because say that under all lighting shall be all external, all lighting. So hours of operation for pickleball court, outdoor swimming pool, and playground area shall be limited to 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. All associated lighting shall be extinguished no later than 30 minutes after closing.
And I would think at some time the parking lot lights would go off too. I mean, it's kind of like.
Well, if we go further on some of the indoor events that they have, there's some language that might come up as time that would be later than 9 p.m. So
Right. I'm not saying instead of 9 o'clock, but just like if you were to go over to Waddell Elementary, there's a switch inside the building that shuts the outside lights off completely.
Well, with the good design that the applicant, Chris's office, is going to come up with lighting, I don't think we might not have to worry about the timer in the parking lot.
And I think what John was trying to say is that specific to number 2, hours of operation for pickleball courts, outdoor swimming, and playground shall be limited from 8 to 9. And he was saying that the lighting associated just with those, not this, not
Yes.
parking or something else.
That should, it should be in number 2. So we'll add that. Okay.
Madam Chair, first, as far as keeping track of these changes, is appropriate just for us to continue to write the changes. In the end, we'll go over all this together.
Sure,
and then the board will-
whatever's easiest here.
Yeah.
Mhm. Tell me when you're finished. And I'll move.
Vivica, are you writing some of these things down too? Did you get number 2
Just
and
to
number 3?
clarify on number, the compliance with the lighting requirements. So we're keeping the same, the language that is currently and adding any lighting plan shall be subject to approval by the zoning administrator. Is that where we're leaving it? Or are we adding the language that the zoning administrator is empowered to require stricter standards than this?
No, I think just the final decision by the zoning administrator. Yeah. Subject to final approval by the zoning administrator. All right. Are we ready to go on to number 4?
No, it's one thing there. We said it was associated with number 2, hours of operation. The pickleball courts, outdoor swimming pool, and playground area shall be limited to 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. My understanding here was any lighting associated with these uses shall be extinguished at the end of the use, or
Right.
is
Well,
that what you were aiming for?
had 2 suggestions, whether these are suggestions, it might not, is no amplified music and lighting, and the lights would turn off by 30 minutes after closing. That was on number 2. Oh,
What do you consider amplified music?
use, well, we could use, what would you?
Somebody is sitting at the swimming pool and has a radio on. Is that amplified music?
I guess.
I'm wondering why we're putting that in there, in right there. I just put
Where
amplified
it's about not having maybe events with music at the pool area unless, bands or whatever. I don't know, unless, and that's just my suggestion. You can rule against that. We are restricting the level of music other places on the country club. So it is hard to understand why that wouldn't apply to across the street. Correct? Mr. Wetmore, that's correct, right? We're restricting, or we would need to under special exceptions or the special.
Well,
For the
condition number
special
2.
event.
Well, condition number 2 is specific to the pickleball courts, outdoor swimming pool, and playground, but does not cover special events per se that could be outside of that area. And there again, that is the area that is across New Cameron, where the current driving range exists.
Right. So do you think that no restrictions in amplified music? Is that what you'd like to see? No restrictions in music or sound or anything?
Again, probably going back to the applicant, what are your plans there? I mean,
certainly there'll be radios at the pool. And so I think the amplified music was after 9 o'clock, right? When it closes down.
No,
but you're not saying amplified or radio at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Or
No.
something.
I
That'd be
just.
very problematic.
Okay, no, just maybe, are you having bands or things like that? That wouldn't be over there. Yeah.
I don't
don't know.
believe so.
Okay.
But certainly member pool parties or something.
Yeah.
I'm not a pool person, so I haven't been to one, but I assume they have pool parties. And if it's got to shut down at 9, then of course the amplified music, whatever they had, would have to shut down at 9 as well.
Okay.
But having music over there would be, I think,
Nice.
a requirement just about.
I understand. All right, well, that is true. That everything closes at 9. So. All right, then if we're done hashing those 3 out, then we can move on to number 4. Is that right?
Yes, condition number
Think going back
4.
to what Mr. Suter was talking about though, are you going to add a specific time, like 30 minutes after closing, the lights have to be shut off? Are you going to add a specific time? Or are you just saying at closing? What are you saying there?
Well, that was.
I mean, I
I
agree.
would say have to close it. I mean, because in the winter, you shouldn't have lights on. And it's a safety thing, a security thing if you turn all the lights off, because then you know if you see a light, something's going on that shouldn't be going on. I'd just say 30 minutes after closing, allow ample time for people to get out of there with the lights on and not get hurt. And nobody's there, they're going to want to turn the lights off anyway. They might change the hours and make it earlier. So,
And again, that kind of goes back to the applicant working with the zoning department, because you could have a security light or maybe a security telephone or something over there that's going to have a light that, you know, so, but not the full court light.
yeah, and you might have times when the pool closes at 6 o'clock for some reason. You wouldn't have lights on at all. So I think 30 minutes after closing is appropriate.
What would, I think everybody just lights it stay on all night, you know, but again, back to the lighting, I am happy with where we are on number 3, where we deal with that. So can we move on to number 4? I don't think there was any, no, I didn't hear anybody have any comments on number 4. And if that's correct, any comments on number 5? All right, then we'll go on to number 6. Any comments here?
Is the material, I mean, I'm guessing you just buy noise reduction material that says it's going to reduce it by 20 decibels. We don't have the manpower to go out and measure that. So, I mean, I'm wondering if that's just materials you buy.
It's a
says
spec.
that they will.
Well, I mean, it's a specification to the material, the panels that they put in.
And there's actually a standard for the materials that states a decibel rating on them.
But because it says it there, we're not sending people out to measure. We don't have that capability.
No, we don't have the capability. No, we don't have the equipment either to measure sound at this point. But if we need that, we'd have to go buy it.
Okay.
But that will be overseen by about that product and that.
The way it's currently drafted, it's just provision of the material, installation and maintenance of that material. It's not actually sitting there with a decibel reader measuring it. It's just saying that they use the material that is spec'd to reduce decibel of any sound by 20 decibels.
And to actually meet that, because the wording right now, I think, Supervisor McDaniel, you're correct. It actually says reduces, but we might want to add weathers is and rated to reduce noise by 20 decibels. I think that would move away from any responsibility for us to measure the actual sound, as long as they can show they have the body materials right there, and that they'd be compliant. Yeah. So
Okay.
I would suggest that change.
We will do that if this is the way you want to go. Do we want to talk about numbers anymore there? Number 7. We did have, we won't, Mr. Whitmore, we won't have you read this. We will discuss, did anybody, I know, Mr. Lyons, you had some things to say about number 7.
Yeah, the only thing I just think number 7 makes it very complicated, and I think there's 3 streams involved that come through the country club, one off Ross Road, Woods Creek, and one from Birdfield. I think it's important to test those streams where they enter the country club. So, and then just test Woods Creek when it leaves the country club. That way, you know, I think everybody's going to be pointing to somebody if concentrations go up. But if you don't know what's coming into your property and you're only measuring, you know, the pond on it and the exit, you know, the finger could be pointed towards you when it's actually coming off Ross Road or coming from Birdfield or coming from another spot. And I just think it's simple. You got 3 streams coming in, test the 3 streams coming in, you test the one that leaves. And so if you have good water coming in and bad water going out, then there's no doubt where it's coming from. But if you got bad water coming in, then you know someone's got to take some action, because it's not the fault of the contractors or the people applying the chemical.
Chair, may I make a procedural suggestion? I mean, staff had, after discussion with various supervisors, had to put together an amended version of the conditions, well, of all the conditions. We actually have a document which shows that. We could put that up there and track it, or we could
No, I think
make
we'll
the
just,
change.
I think we'll just go by 7. We'll just do 7 right now.
Are you able to make the changes?
Because I
so they
feel like
see the
we've
changes
already,
there?
I don't want to go,
The one issue might be helpful is, as we can do it that way, obviously we can do whatever you direct, but what might be helpful is if she can make the changes up there so we see the actual changes as we do that, so that way we can confirm we're using the correct
but I
language.
thought you said there was a.
Oh, well, we do have a track change version, but if we don't want that up now, then we could.
I don't mind of 7.
Oh, yeah, we don't have divides individually. It's all one document.
I thought we had, okay. Well, how do you recommend doing this?
So here's the thing, through last week and through discussion with board members and different things, and us looking at a lot of these things, staff just came up with, okay, if the board gets into discussion on any given one of these, we might have some suggestions that might help, and it's absolutely not something that we're necessarily pushing or anything, but it's something that you could take a look at. You can either do that. You can either do that, and there's some other things there too, a little bit of clarification that we added to some of these, but we can either do that, or you can just pull up the existing conditions the way they are and discuss them like they are here and make the changes, however you want to do it.
That's what we've been doing through
Right.
6, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
But we're not
So-
really, are we making the changes as we go?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So I feel that we've already, so I would like to address number 7, but if you want to put it up and scroll to number 7 of the track changes to make this,
It'll actually be number 8.
Bear with me, it'll take just a second.
If she's got to unshare and then reshare.
So your point about testing the streams is to take out the section where it says testing the
I'm
pond?
just saying that just test the 3 streams that come in and the 1 stream that goes out.
Can you zoom in just a little bit? And some of these are just staff's thoughts on some of the clarifications as well.
We make that a little bigger.
Okay, so I'll just read it. Water and sediment testing of streams, we just put in shall take place prior prior to the first application of chemicals and fertilizers and within 7 days after the final application of chemicals and fertilizers. And pre and post application waterman sediment testing for, and I won't read all of that. We did.
There's one clarification. This was previously cerium and it's actually chromium. We had the correct element label there, but not the correct element listed.
And then the one change that Dr. Lyons is talking about is that he was saying that rather than taking it from Pond A and point one, that it be to paraphrase, the 3 points of water entry, surface water entry to the country club property and at the exit. Is that state about right?
But then it goes on to say the post-testing shall take place between 3 and 7 days after each application. Seems to be a bit of a, in the beginning, it says pre and post water only. And then it says post-testing shall take place between 3 to 7 days after each application. And there are 3 applications.
Okay, so maybe at the top we should say between 3 and 7 days. That makes sense. Or we could just use the one that's already in there.
We could, I don't know, Supervisor Lyons, if you intend to just have this as an additional one, just test at the beginning for the water coming in. So it's clear at before any applications are made what the incoming water is like, or do you want it tested each time?
Well, the problem, if you don't test it each time, you have farmers and
It could be doing
houses
something.
and, weekend fertilizers, people putting chemicals on their lawns that definitely aren't certified. And a lot of them probably don't read the directions that could be contributing. And if you don't test it each time, then the club's kind of taking assuming that it's coming from them if you don't.
But one thought might be because the enforcement of this is not on the county, but it would, by providing this information, would give information to property surrounding the country club to make a determination whether they want to privately enforce any damage to the property that they determines from there. So in one sense, this testing on the water coming in would be to the benefit of the applicant, and they might but maybe they would make that determination themselves because they could test as many times as they want at any part. So
they can test it as often as they want, but I think they ought to test the minimum of.
Yeah.
Well, if there is increased chemicals in the water, then they can adjust for the second application. I mean, there's no point in not testing in between. If you don't test in between.
No, my point was they're incentivized to test as often as they feel necessary to protect it against any claims that they were causing the problem when actually it was coming from somewhere else. So they're already incentivized to do that. But the question is, do we want to include the ordinance or not? We could either way. That's the point I was bringing.
And I apologize. I missed the language that we would like instead of Pond A and point one on the map.
Did we want to go with the language that I just stated?
I thought you stated.
All right. So basically what I said is at the shall be performed at 3 points of surface water entry streams. Or surface water streams entering at the point of entry. I'm probably butchering this, but entry to the and you have to do a copy and paste the LL or LGCC WNL joint venture LLC property. and at the point where Woods Creek exits said property. Is that a fair enough description?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Testing out for glyphosate, we're going to do glyphosate testing for those, but to test PFAS and all of those heavy metals after each application of glyphosate seems unreasonable. PFAS is a very expensive test, very expensive, and PFAS is also, it's a very sensitive test. And so with the probability of large numbers or tiny numbers, if you're measuring parts in trillion, then there might easily be a laboratory difference between the first test and the second test of any sample. There's going to be a difference, but of course, this body does not enforce PFAS or anything like that. So we'll report the findings, but hopefully we can reduce that testing so that after the glyphosate application, we're testing for glyphosate, but we're not testing for cadmium after we apply glyphosate, and lead after we apply glyphosate, and PFAS after. Initially and at the end, that seems reasonable, but not just after each application.
How are you all feeling with that? I'm not sure that there was what the justification would be if what we're trying to measure in between that or any components of that. And I don't know what the components of glyphosate are, but we're just
I think it's a reasonable request that, we run the test at the beginning and at the end and test for what you apply in between time.
okay. Then
Was my understanding that some of the elements listed were part of the other chemicals that would be applied. I think that's why they were originally listed.
they were say that again.
I think that they were a portion of some of the other chemicals that would be applied in the killing of the grass. I don't remember if it was a fertilizer or I don't
right.
remember.
It's not just glyphosate. It is.
Need to speak.
Right.
We fertilize. It's a golf course. We fertilize all the time.
Mhm.
And so I don't foresee a preponderance of those chemicals in the fertilizer that we'd happen to use those 3 times as opposed to the hundreds of times that we and everybody in the county uses fertilizer.
Mhm.
So I think before and after gives us a very good picture of what went on during that period.
Right. Yes. Well, I mean, the PFAS is in the fertilizers, but as you say, you're going to get it pre and
Right.
post.
And I think the way that Dr. Lyons is going, I think it's a water test, not a sediment test. We're not necessarily testing what people upstream have used over the last decades. We're testing the water. So we test the water beforehand. And then we test after each application of glyphosate within 3 to 7 days, if that's what you prefer. But we test for glyphosate. And then at the end, we test for all of these things again. And I think that will give us a very good picture of what's going on.
Right. But can we test? We should be able to test for nitrogen and those things that are in the fertilizer. I mean, let's face it, fertilizer shouldn't be ending up in the water stream anyway. I mean, that you would.
Well, we're testing for nitrates and nitrites, and so that's a lot of the fertilizer stuff, but that's also a lot goose poop and cow poop and human poop.
Right,
So
right.
it's not necessarily from the golf course, but it certainly is a
Absolutely.
part of,
Mhm.
and the stream's already impaired. But I think nitrate, nitrite is, if it's not the only constituent, which it's not, it's a very good marker for what's going on. But again, fertilizing is an ongoing thing. Arguably, there'll be less fertilizing while we're building the course than if we were trying to maintain the course. Of course, once we're growing grass in, I assume that we fertilize it rather well. But That's an ongoing thing for the golf course, for all the lawns above the golf course, for all the farms above the golf course. So I think the testing we said is a pretty good indicator.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I believe that if that is to be added above, then the next sentence should be removed. Water samples shall be taken from the water column, sediment taken from the top 1 or 2 inches from the bed of pond A in point 1. The only thing I'm not clear on is the separation between the water quality testing and the sediment, whether that is required on the sediment side of things.
No.
If you just want to track that change. Okay, moving down there as well. I don't know if you want to skip to it, or I don't want to skip over anything, but I did want to note that staff realized that there was not any, it was just testing. There was nothing that's going to be done with the testing. So we put in all test results shall be shared with the Office of Community Development, and the application must also make test results publicly available within 7 days of the applicant's receipt of test results. Because we couldn't say within 7 days, because we don't know how long it's going to take the test to actually be processed. That's why we use the term your receipt of the results. And the reason it's not absolutely instantaneous, immediate is simply because we know the difficulties of sometimes being able to put stuff online and getting all that done, people being on vacation. So that's why we just went to 7 days.
I'm fine with it being shared with the Office of Community Development, but there is no enforcement or
Well,
I mean, we have nothing to do with that other than just keeping the record.
Yeah, I think that'd just be showing that keeping a record that it complied with the obligation. That'd be the only reason why community development would need to see that. Otherwise,
I mean, there's no action or enforcement or
no, and any action
legality issues by us having that.
Yeah, and it's also just more of a convenience than Office of Community Development, because there still would be the requirement to make it available to the public, and that would because that's the teeth behind it is that if the public are aware of it and they believe that their property's been damaged, they now have the opportunity to seek judicial recourse. But yeah, the point you make
judicial recourse would not come through community development.
we would have nothing to do with that.
That's the piece I want left. I don't want.
We have nothing to do. So we could remove the issue of having to report to the community development separately, but it just makes it slightly more convenient to us instead of us having to track what it's done.
I don't have a problem with us keeping track of it and keeping a record of it. I just don't want to be part of the judicial system.
Yeah, it's drafted so that we have no enforcement ability, actually no enforcement desire, because we can't make a decision. It's not our position to make a decision if damage was done or not.
Can we require it to be published in the newspaper?
We can require it to be published anywhere. I'm not sure if the newspaper would be the most convenient place, but it's up to you. I think the idea behind it is it needs to be available to the public in whatever method, just so they could make their determination. But if you feel it's appropriate to be in the newspaper, we could do that.
If
we could require that.
Community development, will then they put it online on their website?
It says that the applicant must also make test results publicly available within 7 days. We just left it, they have to make it publicly available. We didn't direct how they had to make it publicly available. So they have to report to the Office of Community Development. And in addition to that, they have to make it publicly available. We didn't provide direction on what that is. So if you feel you should, we can add language there.
And I will say there are other organizations that will post, water quality testing, like RAC, for instance, perhaps. So.
Well, sediment testing remains, yeah, but sediment testing remains at the top. If you go to the top, all right, water and sediment testing of streams. And our staff's goal was not to water down, so to speak, what it was. It's when we were doing this originally at the ponds, that all made sense, but I'm not sure the language that we've crossed out, which is right there, water samples shall be taken from the water column. Sediment testing shall be taken from the top 1 or 2 inches of the bed of Pond A. Pond A has been removed by going to the 3 entry points and the exit point. That was my point. Wasn't trying to eliminate sediment at all. I just don't know how
Well, you could still have the sediment taken at the pond. That there's.
I would like to get sediment removed from that. 2-inch deep sediment is a record of some number of years ago, and I don't think that's a condition of our special exception. Nothing that we're asking for rises to the level that we need to know what was in the sediment 7 years ago. It's not a condition for this special exception. So the water certainly is, and we get it, but I don't think the sediment is.
Unless they're gonna try to remove the sediment, I don't think that's gonna happen.
Well, I do have a problem striking too much after we've already had a public meeting on this already. And you all agreed to that at the time. And so,
No.
well, you said you did not have any
We
problem
didn't have
with.
an opportunity to agree, so no.
And if I can step in, and it's the conditions don't require nor are anticipated, or is it open to agreement or disagreement by the applicant? The conditions are imposed by the
Well,
board of
no, I
supervisors.
specifically asked you about these and you said that you had no problems with number 7. That's that is the reference I'm making. And
I have no problem with water testing. I think water testing is necessary. There's many
sediment
specifics.
testing is typically, I mean, that's what I would call water testing. But
And again, this is a condition, so this is just imposed on us. But it's my opinion that the composition of the sediment some number of years ago is not germane to a special exception, and conditions have to be predicated on the special exception. I just don't think that's the case. You can, they're yours to do whatever you wish.
I would think the
If
sediment.
we're testing the water before and after, that seems like a very good indicator of what we're doing.
Right, but sediment testing, you can see that sediment, or maybe turbidity is a better measure of that, of how much is running off once, once the property is
Turbidity
cleared.
this testing of the sediment wouldn't touch turbidity. It's not the same
sediments
thing.
though, how much is coming into
We're
the
not
pond.
measuring quantity with this, we're measuring chemical in the sediment.
Right.
So I
You know,
understand what you're
understand-
saying, but it's not this at all.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm saying that I agree with you on that aspect of it, that it seems like what we should be measuring is sediment coming off of the country club into the pond. But I wasn't there when we made the suggestions, and I want to be careful about striking a lot that our community has already seen and that was in. That's my. What?
Sure.
Well, so it says originally water and sediment testing of streams, pre and post application water and sediment testing for glyphosate and PFAS, et cetera, et cetera. So, it is saying it's testing the sediment for these, as shown here, for these chemicals, not necessarily the turbidity as I read it.
Right. I understand. I used the wrong word. Sorry.
So are we striking sediment there?
Well, again, that goes back to the 3 or the 4 locations as opposed to the 2 locations originally. I guess you could also test sediment out of the bottom of the stream, but it's probably not settled sediment. The last time it rained, went through. So
Well, personally, I would just, I would prefer just leaving it. The planning commission came up with this, the water, there was communication with Chris on this. This came about for a reason that I don't know. And I'm not I don't feel that comfortable striking it at this point. Now, if we want to, and nobody does, if we want to wait 2 weeks to have our final decision and we go over this more finely, we can do that. But that's my opinion. I don't.
Well, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I'm not trying to disagree with you, but I also understand what the applicant is saying in that pertains to this particular request, not something that happened years ago or where it came from or anything else that could be found in the sediment. You're testing the water as it is right now before any application of the chemicals, and then you're testing it afterwards to see if it affected the water quality or not. And that's not the sediment.
I don't know what the rationale is. We'd have to ask the people that were involved in that. Neil, could you shed any light on that?
I think I might be able to help if I'm reading this right. If you left that sentence in that we struck, it's very specific. Water samples shall be taken from the water column. I don't know, the water column is in a stream is not necessarily a water column as it is in a standing body of water. You could just say, from the stream, and then leave in there sediment testing shall be taken from the top 1 or 2 inches from the bed of pond A and point 1.
Correct. You could, we can just leave that. Or we can strike it. It's up to one person.
I think to that point, if you strike sediment, I think if you strike that sentence, then you need to strike sediment. But if you want to keep sediment, to your point, chairs, then you probably ought to, in my opinion, leave it.
You probably ought
I'm happy to, somebody could see that totally differently than me, but.
Well, you're not going to get any sediment from the streams because it's going to be in the flowing water. If you dammed up a stream and let it sit and made it still, things would settle out to the bottom. And so if you go to the pond, personally, anything that's in that water is going to settle out because it's still water. So does it really matter what's on the bottom of the pond or what's going downstream? So I just think common sense should prevail, and you don't need to go down to the bottom of the pond and pull up 2 inches of sediment so that you can know, I don't know how long it takes to build up 2 inches. It'd be different if they were dredging the pond and pulling all that stuff out, then you'd be concerned about where it's going.
And that's regulated by the state and is being regulated by the state. If we go 2 inches down, which this says, and we get sediment and we test it, and then tomorrow we go 2 inches down and we get sediment and test it, and a year from now we go 2 inches down and get sediment and test it, with a little variety, it's the same material. We're going to get the same result from that material each time we test it. So before we do it, after we do it, a month after, 2 months after, we're taking that same sediment and sending it off to test, saying, hey, what happened here 7 years ago? And we'll get the same result. And then when it's 7 years and 1 day, it'll still be the same result. And 8 years, it'll still be the same. It's 2 inches down. We're not testing what we're doing now.
I understand all of that. I don't think that we're up here trying to decide what the planning commission and what others before us had here. I didn't realize we were reworking things to that level. If we are, it's just difficult after we've already had a public hearing on this and people have made comments, and now we're going to strike something that I have no knowledge of why it was ever there. To your point, I don't know, but I'm not going to know tonight. So that's the dilemma for me.
If the testing wasn't so expensive, if might be a little different. We're not trying to be recalcitrant about it.
No,
but to
I
test
understand.
old sediment a whole bunch of times seems to not be even part of our special exception.
Yes, yeah, agreed. But one time maybe is. Could it be one time? Yeah,
Doesn't seem to be,
no,
but
I'm sorry. This is not a public meetings. I mean, a public hearing, so no other comment.
Just for the record purposes, I would say that as a county attorney, I don't necessarily agree that it's not part of the special exception. And that's important because we can only grant special exceptions that deal with what's going on. So I believe that the planning commission had considered this to be part. Now, that doesn't mean the board has to agree, but just to be frank, it sets up an appealable point if we agree to the fact that it doesn't apply to the special exception. In my view, it does apply to the special exception, or it's within the ability of the board to impose the sediment testing if you determine that is applicable. That's, and I'm saying this as a lawyer because that would be an appealable question.
Thank you.
I will add to that upon thinking of this, if you wanted to do that and having just heard Mr. Orson say testing is expensive, you could keep what you got and then add the 3 test or the 4 tests for the stream, the 3 coming in and the 1 going out. If that is a concern.
But why would you add? I thought we had gotten to where you had 3 entry points you were going to test and 1 exit point.
Well, we are.
That's correct, but the discussion here since that has been the sediment.
And my point was just that I believe that the board is empowered to either include sediment or remove sediment. I think that's would all be within your powers when it comes to allowing for a special exception. I think it is sufficiently associated with this special exception application.
All right, so the easiest, what your point is, the easiest thing to do is just to add the 3 and leave everything else.
If that's a concern, I mean, that is one option that you would have, I think.
And I'm not trying to complicate things or argue with anybody or anything like that, but what we're concerned with here is the water quality, right? That's what the concern is, but what the water quality is before they start, once they apply the chemicals, and what the water quality is after. If the chemicals degraded the water quality, that's what we're concerned with, right?
Well, the legal effect of this section would be to let the surrounding landowners give information whether or not water coming off the golf course has damaged their property. That's the point there. So, whether sediment needs to be tested for that or not, that's a determination for the board of supervisors. But from a legal point of view, the intent of this is to give information to surrounding landowners if there's been an excessive, well, I don't want to give information to surrounding landowners. So if there's damage to their property and they believe that it came from the golf course's applications of such and such, that they would have a basis to seek compensation for that. That's the point. So the question of what's tested, that's a determination, in the end, determination by the board of supervisors. You can require sediment testing or not require sediment testing. That's to your whatever you feel is applicable and correct. But the county will do nothing with this information other than recording that it's been made. We won't do anything with it after this is done. That's totally up to the private parties.
And that's why I thought Mr. Lyons' point about you test it where it comes into the property and you test where it goes out. And that gives you an indication of what was applied to the water source while it was on the property.
If I had to guess why people were doing the sediment is what is in that pond. And probably they're worried that the years and years and years of accumulation of golf balls in that pond have somehow really and they want a measure of that. And perhaps.
Doesn't have anything to do with this particular application, does it?
Well, it does when golf balls are getting in the stream. That is, there would be. And certainly water, and it is knowledge. If you knew that, then maybe you would go collect all the golf balls in the pond every year. So those are the kinds of questions that I think the public, and this is, I don't know this, the public may have wanted to know so that they can best ask for further down. There are ways that we can deal with this, maybe removing those golf balls so they don't degrade in the pond over the course of a lifetime or the lifetime of a golf ball would be a good move.
I totally understand what you're saying, but these conditions have to do with this particular application and not something that happened a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or however long. The application has nothing to do with that, is my thought on it.
I think golf balls have a lot to do with the application.
But it's been a golf club. It's going to continue to be a golf club. I mean, that's not, again, I thought what we was concerned with when I read that was the water quality and the chemicals that they were applying to the course to kill the grass and then, to fertilize to bring it back, and how that would affect the water quality. So if you're testing it when it comes in, you know what it is. You test it when it goes out, you know what it is.
Do we require this sediment testing over and over too? Is that one of the things that we do? It is very difficult. This is how many times do we require sediment testing from the pond?
The current condition requires once per year for 5 years.
Okay. So it's not before, after each application, whatever.
Well, actually, that we'd make no distinction because the language is the post-testing shall take place between 2 and 7 days after each application of glyphosate.
Exactly.
We're not defining that post-testing is anything different than all is required. So the testing is defined above does include all 3 things. And so if we wanted to only to be testing once a year, 5 years, every year, we'd have to clarify that this post-testing after each application of glyphosate does not include PFAS, does not include the other parts or the sediment testing or however we want because right now, if we're to read it, we're requiring that all testing be done prior, and the post-testing is a full battery of tests after each application. And then once a year for 5 years.
What I heard was that this board would like to change to where we're just testing for glyphosate between, and perhaps we can make the accommodation that we're doing the sediment testing the once a year instead of there, because many times, because to the applicant's point, it doesn't seem that the sediment would change much over a few weeks or whatever.
If the board thinks that's reasonable, we can make those changes in every direction.
This is where, it would be better to be able to go over all of these things, understand what the board is direction, and then come back with a fully fleshed, making sure we're not making any mistakes the next time. I understand the applicant is under a time crunch. And so getting this decision now would also give them more time to be careful about when they spray. They're not going to have a very short window because we want them to be able to spray at the most opportune time, storm-wise. So that, I think, in itself is something that we should keep working through so that the applicant is not forced into a small window. And I say that because you might be wondering, why are we doing all of this here? One of the reasons we do it is because we can't talk together as a group. This is the only opportunity we have to sit here and flesh out these details. We're trying to work very hard for the people that have concerns and also the applicant that has a time crunch and they want and a good project that they're putting forward. So that is why it does look a little bit like we're, the whole expression about making sausage and that this is what this looks like. So bear with us and let's hope that we can get to the end of this where we have something that we feel comfortable on voting for. But if we don't, then we were going to have to put it off until the next, which brings us to number 8. I'm going to let you all work on that. I think you heard enough.
If I can just say one more thing. If I'm not mistaken, aren't there 3 ponds? And we're going to pull sediment out of one, and there's 3 ponds.
Well, there is the main pond that collects all the golf balls. So yeah,
I don't know. I've hit golf balls in every single one, probably multiple
Okay, well,
times.
there is one that has quite the collection, right?
But I would bet there's more golf balls hit down towards Woods Creek. What is that? 4? More go in there, and I've never seen a golf ball come out of a pond. It's not like they're going to float to the surface and get in the stream and go anywhere. It's just me,
No,
but it doesn't
they
make a lot of
degrade.
sense.
They degrade, and
Right.
that's the
They
issue.
degrade and
Mhm.
settle out in the bottom and stay there.
Well, the chemical components of that golf ball don't necessarily stay there.
Right. And so if the chemical components are released into the water and the water gets in the stream, it's going to show up when they test the water.
Well, I am looking for direction.
I think we can remove the testing of sediment. That's just, I think that's logical, makes common sense, and it's
Perhaps the reason it's there is, to your point, if you get a high reading of lead, mercury, the things that one would find in a golf ball, that you could say it comes from all different directions. If the sediment has it in the sediment, one would assume that it's coming from the country club. No?
no, because if it's showing up in the water, going out and not coming in, you know it's coming from the country club. But I don't think if it's showing up, coming in and going out, and it's part of a golf ball, you can't say it's from the golf ball being in the lake. I think that's a reach.
Well, the easiest thing to do tonight is just to add the addition and not strike anything. And I'm not saying we shouldn't strike anything, but we need to come to consensus of what it is that we're striking. So
I think the 2 of us are fine with striking the sediment and the pond. So it would be up to you two. If 2 of you are against that, then that's fine. We can move on. If
well, I'm sure I've already. Right. So the glyphosate, are you fine with only testing for the glyphosate? That was the other thing that we're changing here. Only testing for glyphosate between applications and not the other things. Just
We tested everything, the first initial test and the last. And in between, just the
glyphosate?
Glyphosate, thank you.
Okay, and you vote to, or your opinion is to strike the sediment?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Is that what you need to?
I think so. We do need to add 1 word or 2 words to this. On halfway through that section, Vivica, after the sentence that says the pre-testing shall be performed prior to the first application of glyphosate associated with the initial killing of grass and golf course, the post-testing for glyphosate, adding for glyphosate, shall take place between 3 to 7 days after each application of glyphosate or glyphosate. Sorry. but just adding that clarifying. I mean, I think it's fairly clear, but I think you just add those.
Okay.
If I could clarify the annual testing for 5 years, is that for everything or? No, glyphosate shouldn't be there anymore. I mean, it should be gone.
No, no, it will be. There are spot testings in the native areas and I don't know whether they're using glyphosate, but glyphosate is commonly used on golf courses for years.
But for the language here, if we want to, the annual testing for each year would be for the battery of the 3 tests or not, and would take place, I assume, on the 3 places come in, 1 place going out. So the PFAS and other things will be tested once a year for 5 years following, in addition to glyphosate and heavy metal, or do we want just?
No, I would follow, I mean, personally, I would follow what the planning commission and they had already set up. I think
So
that is my vote.
So the one thing is we'll have to actually adapt some language here a little bit though, because the after testing is not these 5-year testing, but it's going to be after the completion, after the I think we use the word after the reconstruction of the golf course. There shall be a final test, because if we want to take the final test, so these 5 once a year, every 5 years are in addition. So my understanding is that for the first test will be the full battery of tests prior to we'll have to have then a last test after the reconstruction is done. And then we will have annual tests for 5 years after that. Is that how we want to do it? Or do we, because what we do have that one of those annual tests, we just say it has to happen in June, July, or August. We, instead of waiting immediately after reconstruction, we say just whenever June, July, and August comes up will be your first after construction test. I'm sorry if I'm not making myself clear. Sometimes I have to do that. Okay. And so the
at
question is, do
least
we want
once
to add?
annually, at some point during the months of June, July, or August, for 5 years after construction is finished, they'll do a test.
And that will be, the first of those will be sufficient to be your after test. Is that what you think?
Yeah.
Okay. So we don't have to change that.
Well, I guess what we could, the June, July, August post-construction is the first time.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I was trying to clarify. Thank you.
All right, yes. All right. We are now on number 8. I will just say, I haven't, and correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't heard anything about 8 except for the notice shall be performed for all landowners within the designated area who have notified the Office of Community Development in writing within 30 days. Again, my hope is that we can get that notification completely we had heard from different people that 14 days. Did we put 14?
Yeah, it's up here that we had worked on this, staff did, and with a couple of goals here. So I'll just read it. So the first piece remains the same, with exception of changing to chromium. Additionally, owners of wells used as a potable water source located within 1,000 feet of the property lines owned by, I'll just say the Country Club LLC, shall be afforded or offered opportunity to have their wells tested pre and post application. The applicant shall make its best efforts to notify all landowners within the stated area, and I'll get to that in a second, as determined by the Office of Community Development. And what that's meant to say is that the Office of Community Development will, using public land records, provide the applicant with all the properties within 1,000 feet radius of the Country Club about the option. And at minimum shall utilize certified mail. Previously it said they would do it certified mail, but we would say that's not limiting to just certified mail. But what we're saying here, using their best efforts, if they're sending certified mail, the potential exists is that someone doesn't check their mail for several weeks, that type of thing. So, it makes their best effort by certified mail. Landowners who wish to have their wells tested shall notify the applicant in writing within 14 days of the postmark dated on the certified mailing. Previously, it said, from date of approval. And this would be from the date of the certified mailing, and shall grant right of entry of the property for the purpose of pre and post testing of the wells, of their well. And then again, we added the language there, after the reconstruction of the golf course, testing shall be performed once during the months of June, July, or August. And that is specifically, was my understanding, it was not every 5 years. It was after the reconstruction, and that was discussed in the planning commission. The results of all tests shall be shared with the landowner requesting the test within 7 days of the applicant's receipt of the test results. And then costs associated are borne by basically by the applicant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you gotta strike sediment there, don't you?
Okay, well, based on this.
Based on what we just talked about.
Conversation.
What are we changing?
If you're not testing for sediment, decided that in the previous one, this one also says.
Probably, I mean, I think that was, you're talking about wells. I think what we intend to have there is the.
Well, where is sediment?
Right there.
Down at the very bottom.
Associated with pre and post water.
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, so I think that was just a mistake. And streams, streams.
Yeah.
Too. And I think the costs associated with pre and post water testing. We have this has nothing to do with streams. I don't think we intended to have them test the streams the second time when that comes to the wells. I think that was language there that was unfortunately we made the wrong language.
Yeah, I think that was from the original conditions, I think. And it was probably just a carry over from one to the next one.
I just hope there's not too many of those. Or none.
Well, I mean, and it's as one thought is that could be that by testing the water and sediment coming off, that would show whether or not there was contaminant coming in, and so maybe that's what anticipate you do. But it's not made clear. I'm just trying to figure out why we did that. Maybe that would be tied in, but that testing is done anyway. And this is applicable. This is applicable to wells, and it was I believe was the intent of the planning commission, though I can't speak to it. That at least with the intent of staff that the applicant would bear the cost, which would be the normal situation to have the applicant bear the cost of testing.
Okay. Now what? Let's see. Is everybody
So can you make those changes?
happy with
Cost associated at the very bottom
Yes, it crossed off.
and sediment testing of streams. Okay, could you put instead replace streams with wells?
I apologize.
Yep. Sorry, it's just hard to see what's stricken.
Do we need to specify that the testing will be done by an independent certified lab?
I would think so, yes. I agree.
I'm sorry, Mr. Day. What was that? I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Do we need to specify that the testing will be done by independent certified lab?
We've hired John with Commonwealth Environmental, and he's all set to do this, and he is fully certified and does
And
this kind
independent.
of work.
Yeah.
So we can include that and it won't. Yeah,
Go for it.
fine.
And he's
Good.
local.
Okay, so yes, we can include that.
We don't need to.
Well, no, I think including it is fine and yes.
So you'd like that include 8 and 9?
Well,
or just 9? Would you like that including 8 and 9 or just 9? You're speaking just the well testing?
Those are conditions 7 and 8 as.
Oh, I'm sorry,
recommended by
said
the-
7 and 8. Yeah, 7 and 8 on the planning commission.
Sure, I mean,
I think you include them both.
Yeah. I think while we know and you know, it's important for the community to know that it's an independent person.
And I apologize, I didn't quite catch where we're adding that, the independent.
You could put it at the very end, probably.
On both of them. Yeah.
And so the language of which is testing shall be performed by an independent.
All tests shall be, let's just throw this out there, all tests shall be performed by an independent and certified laboratory. Does that suit you all?
Fine.
And we're adding that on both 7 and 8, just to clarify.
Are you all right if we move on to 9? All right, 9. Did we have any?
It just seems to be on what I'm looking at on, unless I'm looking at it wrong. Number 9 is us, but number 10 is up there.
Yeah, that'll,
Yeah.
we'll bring this up because we're
That'll
gonna have an 11 here in a minute. So
Okay. So on the 9 of the existing from the planning commission, were there, I don't believe there were any comments or changes. Is that correct?
I've not heard any from
Okay.
any board members.
And then we got to number 10, and this is where we went ahead and, would you want to bring that up? Yes. No. The changes.
It'd be
for-
number 11 up there.
Oh, good.
So 11 is number 10 on the planning commission recommendation.
Which is, I don't.
So
I'm
this
sorry.
number 11 shown here is just a note saying that the planning commission felt that the existing noise ordinance would be sufficient to address noise concerns associated with the club activity. So there was no specific recommendation made in excess of the relying on the noise ordinance for essentially the cutoff time. So this number, just to clarify, number 11 is just simply a note, not an actual condition.
Correct.
Staff viewed this just as a note and not a condition. That's not stated as a
All right,
condition.
but we had discussions, or we had talked about what we could do for that. Can you?
So the staff had contacted the applicant to understand, essentially, we know that the applicant will have to come back for another special exception for the special events, as was previously discussed. And so staff reached out to the applicant to understand what events would be taking place essentially between the time of the approval, potential approval of the ordinance and the time that they could come back for that special exception for special events. So staff had proposed a potential condition to limit the that would apply to the events that are accessory uses to the definition of a country club that would be allowed to take place during that time. So I can certainly show that. Bear with me.
Hence the numbering, it was added up above, and, we just went by that initially.
So suggestion, or what we came up with, was events which are allowed as an accessory use, allowed as accessory uses under the definition of a country club shall be subject to the following conditions. A, any amplified music must be within an enclosed structure, and B, such events will be concluded by 10 p.m. Okay. And this was a collaboration, if you will, with staff and the applicant to understand their needs prior to the time that they can come forward for a special exception for special events.
To clarify, this wasn't a request from the applicant. This was, we just had to determine what events they potentially had coming up to, well, you can speak to that too, John.
Well, if you all don't, once this is approved, there would be no opportunity, or they would not be able to have special events until that.
No,
process.
this isn't a special event. This is just events. We're actually careful with our wording here. The reason being that special events are not in the definition of country club, so no special. Once a special exception is granted, they will not be able to host special events at the country club. unless there is a change to the definition of a country club to allow for special events. This discussion's been had, and our zoning administrator had made a determination that special events can't be held under the current definition of country club. But there are events which don't fall within our definition of special events, such as dinners, and would not be considered a special event under our definition of special events. A special event is a wedding, reception, or reunion with other things applicable to them. And so to clarify that that once a special exception is approved for the country club, their prior non-conforming use would expire. And therefore, they would not be able to do things that they are allowed to do under their prior non-conforming use. This is to clarify that events which would be considered accessory uses under the definition of country club, which there are, dinner would probably be a good example of that inside of their enclosed area, that they are allowed. However, they're subject to certain restrictions, which would be no music outside, all music would be amplified music within enclosed areas, and that it'd have to end by 10 is the language that, after discussion with members of individual supervisors, that's the language that was put down for that. And that's in having it where number 10 was before, which is now number 11. That was actually dealing with noise, and for special, and normally when events happen. So this addresses directly addresses noise beyond just our noise ordinance, and adds the condition of the time for when it has to end. So those are obviously up to individual supervisors if they want that language or not.
Okay, thank you. I've understood that. Any questions there? And then we move on to
The zoning department made this recommendation and ran it by the applicant.
Well, conditions we don't run by applicants. Those conditions are imposed by the board of supervisors, but we do have discussions with
I thought
applicants.
she
and
said
other
it was
people.
a joint.
Well, that maybe not been the best wording, and here I'm speaking like a lawyer. And as a lawyer, all conditions are imposed at the will of the board of supervisors, as long as they meet the legal standard, which is that they're applicable to associated with the land and applicable to the application, and that they're not arbitrary and capricious. And as a practice, we do talk with applicants about what potential conditions might be there, and we also talk with members of the public about what potential conditions will be there. So this was not run by the applicants for their approval. It was just as part of the discussion process to determine what the appropriate language would be. And I know that's lawyer speak, but I think it's actually important. So that we make that
My
distinction.
apologies for misspeaking.
Oh, no, that's fine.
So if
But-
it's not there, then they possibly could not have the events that they
Well,
already
no,
have scheduled.
they're allowed to have events as accessory uses. What this does is it kind of clarifies a bit more. What if it's not there, then they would, we have no restrictions of the time that it has to end. And we have no restrictions for requiring the music to be with no amplified music outside of the enclosed structure, because the only restriction we would have would be our noise ordinance, because that's so generally applicable to everybody. So this actually add some restrictions onto any events, dinners that they might have that would normally only be subject to noise ordinance. So it adds a few additional restrictions. So it's up to the board whether you would like to include those. But the fact is the events which are allowed as accessory uses under the definition of country club, they're allowed to do that whether or not we adopt this. This just adds a few conditions on top of those events.
My understanding is that we had to do something to make sure that they could have the events that
Well,
they had
I think
scheduled.
I think this clarifies certain things. I don't think we're in and it doesn't tie the county down, which is important, as to, for example, if there's an event that's scheduled, which the definitions of the event are not necessarily what was told us beforehand. And we still would then be able to impose, as the zoning administrator could impose, say that's a violation. But what this does, it puts some general rules in place, and we're not making a determination that the list of things we're given were events allowed as accessory uses. And frankly speaking, if they're held indoors and they end by 10 o'clock, and it would just be the normal course, and it probably wouldn't cause any concern. However, if it turns out that there's a live band that was planning to be outside before this condition comes in place, that gives us some flexibility. So what this does, the language here is we did have the opportunity to speak with our zoning administrator while he was in the hospital over this particular issue. And this allows him the ability to not make a determination at this point that the list of things is indeed all allowed events. If it turns out one of them actually involves some things that we wouldn't normally approve, he still has the ability to make a determination on the individual event basis. So we're not making, well, the only thing we're stating here, and which I think is reasonable, is that that if they have events that they're held in, that there's no amplified music outdoors, and sorry, I shouldn't say where it's reasonable. That's from a legal point of view, it's reasonable, and that they end by 10 o'clock. That's what this does.
But if they wanted to have an outdoor event, they could come get a special exception from it.
If they have an outdoor event, I mean, if it defines that and it falls under definition of an outdoor music festival, then we have separate set of the code which applies to that. If there's any concern on their part that it might be considered a special event, which they're not allowed to do, they could come and actually ask for it. But in most cases, I would think there would not be a need to do it. What could happen is if they have an event that the neighbors think that was done improperly, they then could come and make a complaint, and then at that point the zoning administrator can make a determination if it was done improperly. Then if it was done improperly, then he would issue a cease and desist so that it doesn't happen in the future. So it doesn't, and that's important because you don't want to tie the zoning administrator's hands on that. I mean, it doesn't, you say, well, that doesn't really have a lot of teeth, but it does to some degree. I mean, if the golf club, for a country club sometimes down the road was controlled by people who had views that were contrary to what the county has, it still enables then the zoning administrator then to cite these as zoning violations without saying we pre-approved them. So it's just, so this type of language, I think meets the zoning administrator's, gives him the flexibility he needs, while at the same time gives a certain level of certainty to the applicant that the things that they intended on doing are things that they can continue to do, because we aren't making a determination that on the face any of the more special events are not allowed. Again, very lawyerly, but at this point, the idea we want some language in there which enables the board of supervisors to set certain conditions, and also gives still some flexibility to the zoning administrator if there were complaints from the community to make a determination at that time whether this was an appropriate accessory use or not.
And why wouldn't our regular noise ordinance apply?
Well, Jen, I think the thought behind it does apply. It's going to always apply, but the noise ordinance would not is less restrictive than this. And I think some of the thought after talking with supervisors was that given the location of this next to within a residential district, it's a bit different than where the noise ordinance is normally applied. And frankly speaking, for special event venues, we normally apply stricter rules than a noise ordinance allows. I don't think we've approved a special event venue without having some restrictions on noise and on times of operation.
And once we do the special, once we come forward with that, then that
well,
would
and then
take the place, quite honestly, of
yeah,
that.
the plan would be that there would be an amendment to the country club definition allowing for special events, and then when they would come and ask for an amendment to their special exception granting, and the board could attach conditions to those special events.
Right. And then that would.
But this is for events which don't fall in the category of special events that potentially could be cause of problem. We're not anticipating it would be. I think even when the community testified as to the previous activities of the country club, no one complained too much about what had happened in the past. But this would, still allow the zoning administrator, if something happened that didn't seem appropriate, he could issue a zoning violation letter, and that would. And if they do it again, then we have the right to summon them to court. So that's the process for zoning violations. And if it happens 5 times, then it becomes criminal. So and this preserves our ability to treat this as a zoning violation if they do something wrong. Again, not anticipating that they will, but.
The problem I see, somewhere I saw a list of events and they're inside, and if they have music, I don't think, and might be wrong, but I don't think there's many people here are concerned about the indoor events. I think the majority of people are concerned if you have an outdoor event with amplified music.
That's what A does.
Right, but I see amplified music is not allowed, it has to be indoor, and I agree with that. But if you're having a dinner or a New Year's Eve party indoors, we're gonna say, sorry, the New Year starts at 10 p.m. because
That's a valid point, actually,
So
yeah.
I think
yeah.
any outdoor activity, it's reasonable to put an earlier end time.
Okay, yeah, we can amend it
But
that
if
way.
it's
that's reasonable.
inside, I don't think it's gonna be bothering anybody. If somebody's having a wedding reception, it doesn't even start till 7 or 8,
Right,
and it goes till 11, and it's inside a building, I think the neighbors would appreciate or even cooperate. Okay, if you're inside and you're quiet, and we can sleep, but if you're moving it outside, then we do have a problem. And then I would have a problem if you move it outside and you're playing amplified music. I think we should restrict amplified music to, music amplified has to be inside, and the noise ordinance would apply to that inside activity but you will not have amplified music outside, and you will conclude your activities by 10 o'clock outside. And then if they build a pavilion, and that's a whole new story that we all come back and work together and come up with a set of terms.
Okay, so we'd replace the word such with outdoor, and the B, all outdoor events shall. That would be
that would be my suggestion for the short term.
And these, to be clear, as a going forward basis, there is a difference between events which are allowed and our current definition of a special event is, because we do have it narrowly to weddings, receptions, and reunions. So it's this would still continue on for dinners afterwards, but I think would just mean they can't do it outside after 10.
Right.
And music's inside 10.
Yes, Russ.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, but that says any amplified music must be within an enclosed structure. There's no time period on that. So if Jason Hostetter is playing guitar on the patio with his microphone at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that's your intent to shut that down?
If you listened, I'd said.
I know what I heard.
Anything outside.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we're trying to make adjustments to it.
We are. We're
But
trying to fix this.
the definition, if you read it, says that A is modifying the clause above that, and that's only applicable to events.
Right.
So
Events, not special events. And it says any amplified music. must
right,
be within
but
enclosed
if somebody's
structure.
sitting outside playing a guitar, that wouldn't be an event, would it? Because it would be.
Depends on who's playing.
Oh, but well,
Might be a great event.
if you're intending that, then that should be covered then, isn't it? If you're going to have an outside, the question then would be to the board supervisor. So the point is you're making is you might have some point down the road where you'd have a concert outside.
Not a concert, but an event with amplified music. We have
Such as?
a supper under the stars, and we have Jason Hostetter with his guitar singing American Pie. And at 6 o'clock in the evening, and that's not allowed?
But would that
You're
be
right, that would be an accessory event.
Why would we,
So
if we have the 10 o'clock in there for outdoor events, that covers it, doesn't it?
I guess I completely understand, and I think we need to get to that. And
Yeah, so this is events. This part of it goes forever.
Yeah.
This isn't the
Unless
special
amended.
event. This doesn't have a sunset.
what I understood we needed to do here was to come up with a bridge between the signing of this and the special events. So this is, and what is a special event and what is an event? It's very difficult. What you tell
Right,
me.
but this is very clear. It's event as accessory uses. So that's just a common zoning thing for events that are continue forever.
Right.
So this is
Jason
not the bridge.
Hostetter, yeah.
This is not the bridge. This is forever. And we definitely don't want this wording forever.
Well,
So when we come back with the special exception, that'll be for special events, not events.
all right. But I guess what I've heard the community say is that they're quite used to the events, the regular events at the country club.
Yes.
Their fear, however, and might be justifiable, that it will go from events that are events almost by definition, or is not an everyday thing, right? But that it might become every day under this new use and this new collaboration with WNL, and that the community might feel like they're living in the middle of.
And when we come back for the new special exception, that will cover special events. Events, definitionally, according to John, are country club events that are ancillary to the use that we do now.
You mean just for your members, non-WNL?
That's correct.
Well,
And it's been
So
defined
have
as
you defined
wed-
that as
well,
just your
the county
regular
did, weddings, reunions,
And receptions.
and receptions.
receptions, WNL receptions,
Well, that's- those-
graduation
those-
reception? You see what I mean? That
It's not our definition, but we just can't live with this for.
I
events.
understand, yeah, right, and I want to get to the, I want to improve it, I do.
One thing to clarify is that the definition of country club does not accessory uses are not limited to members. So if these are things that would be normal accessory uses that would be allowed by a country club, it doesn't make the distinction between members and non-members. Though that could come into the zoning administrator's mind as he determines where that's applicable. So for example, a dinner where the country club rents out to someone to have a dinner there, that may be considered a reasonable accessory use, whether or not it's members. So that's, and this does not cut into that question, nor does it require us to make that determination at this time. It just, we use the language that's actually in the country club definition. We could, if the board wishes, we could remove A. We could try to come up with language which make it applicable to certain situations, not to others. But it is correct. It is separate from special events, and this would continue beyond that. There is an argument that when an amendment is made, when an application is made to amend the special exception permit to allow for special events, that may open the door for the board then to readdress what is an event and what's not. But there's also an argument saying that that shouldn't be done at this time. But I haven't made an opinion on that, but we might be able to readdress this question at that time. But I wouldn't say at this point we're guaranteed. I think we should assume that will go on for the life of the special exception.
Does it, I mean, you know, the pickleball pool area, I know it's across the road, but that was 9 p.m. Do you have to have 10 here, or can everything be 9 p.m. across the entire property?
We'd love to have midnight. It's a place to go have a celebration, New Year's Eve or something. So, no, we would love to have midnight. And
But if you had 9 p.m. and then you came back with your list of special exceptions, events that you're going to do throughout the year, New Year's, maybe 4th of July, you know, something, whatever, we could apply a different time frame. I'm just asking.
yeah, our manager advises against that for shutting celebrations down at 10 o'clock. I don't last past 10 o'clock.
Right.
Apparently, a lot of people do.
Could we do indoor
Yeah.
till midnight?
Yeah, well,
And
if you're already
and outdoor-
indoors,
Yeah.
if you're already indoors.
Right.
And your noise ordinance was crafted knowing the country club was there, knowing the country club was exactly where it is, knowing where all the residences are around it, knowing what they do at the country club, knowing they have a pool, and knowing they have events, and knowing they have special events. It was crafted by you guys knowing all of that.
No,
And
it's
so you
crafted
came
by
up-
former supervisor.
Okay,
Right.
well, the
What has-
county. the
What has
county.
changed since it was crafted?
What's that?
What has changed since it was drawn up originally?
What
A
has?
lot.
A lot has changed, and I think that to what is unclear to us is how much that this will be used by a broader community, which is great to an extent. To an extent, there's a point at which it becomes just too much,
I
maybe.
think that's with special events. That's the definition of special events. It's not with the day-to-day event.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
And we're
work with
coming
you on
back to
these
special
day-to-day events.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't think anybody cares if you're inside having a good time, if you're not making the noises and traveling. But if you're outside,
I agree.
there ought to be a cutoff
There
time.
should.
And I think maybe if we could cut amplified music off by 9 p.m. outside, that would be a good compromise.
Because you can still have music indoors.
Right. And people could still sit around their tables and talk and chat till 10 o'clock outside.
Or later.
Or later if they're not bothering anybody. It depends on.
If they're having a good time.
Yeah.
Should I attempt language for A for allowing for any outdoor amplified music shall be allowed until
9 p.m.
9 p.m. Or maybe we can include it in B. Well, we'd have to change A a little bit. So any amplified music.
Are we, okay.
Sorry.
Let me just, are we talking every day of the week? Are we talking?
Well, right now it is every day.
Yeah,
There's no limitation on that, or nor is there any limitation on the number of events that could be held. And the difference is this is an expansion of previous use, especially when you're building an outdoor event pavilion. That's a significant expansion of their
Well, this
current uses.
wouldn't apply to the outdoor event pavilion, would it?
Well, it would, but it would not apply to events in the outdoor event pavilion, which are special events, because that couldn't happen. However, we do, since we are dealing with, some of the since we are dealing with things that fall into the area which are not special events, these are things that the country club is once the special exception is granted, the country club will be allowed to do accessory events. These events are allowed events in their definition.
So
It's just a limitation of
if
those.
we said, you know, amplified music has to be shut off at 9 p.m. I don't think anybody's going to object to people if they're sitting at tables eating dinner after 9 p.m. or if they're, you know, enjoying themselves. But the concern I'm hearing is noise concerns, and I think if amplification of stuff gets moved inside at 9 p.m., that would.
If we modify this, how's that gonna affect the county noise ordinance?
The noise ordinance will prevail unless we specifically allow for something beyond the noise ordinance. So right now, the noise ordinance, I believe it's midnight, and except for midnight on weekends, is that right?
I believe it's
During the weekends.
11 p.m. on the week.
And 11 p.m. on weekdays.
And then 11:59 on.
11. Okay, so 11:50. So the times we're looking at now would actually make it slightly stricter than noise ordinance, and that's perfectly allowable. I mean, you could specifically, though, I would counsel against it. You know, a ground to special exception, and then also allow it to go beyond the noise ordinance. But that's something I would recommend against using special exceptions to make changes to specific general laws.
So your recommendation is 9 p.m.
9 p.m. amplified music. After that, it has to be inside.
We say any amplified music must be within an enclosed structure except outdoor music. Well, actually,
No, just if you just say have to be in an enclosed structure after 9 p.m., that means it can be anywhere prior to 9.
so any amplified music not within an enclosed structure must cease by 9 p.m.
I think we're saying the same thing.
Yeah, that's just to
Well-
make it clear. That's exactly. I'm trying to modify it to match exactly what you're
I
saying.
guess I would also put it on the weekend. I don't understand why we would have an open every day. I mean, we do have problems with events all
What-
through the community. I mean,
Yeah.
events. We'll call it a broad use of the word events, that uses music, amplified music all day, I mean, every day of the week sometimes. So would we not limit that to the weekends? Are we
Well,
we
that,
doing
that's,
this every
that's,
day of
that's,
the-
what- that's
we
within
doing
your
it
power.
Sunday, not to 9 PM?
Yeah, it's within your power to determine that. Now, obviously, when we talk about special events, you'll have at that time to address those separately. But as to what falls in this definition, you can determine what you think is reasonable.
What does our regular noise ordinance specify days? It doesn't, does it?
Our regular noise, I think.
It
that
it goes to 11 PM and then 11:59 on Friday and Saturday or something. And then what you said?
I believe so.
Yeah, so it doesn't specify days.
Yes, but we've had problems with amplified music too. And we've had people approach us and we've had meetings on the amplified music that we've had problems with the neighborhood. So I guess my issue is I'm not sure how best to construct this. It's just that we're literally doing this, as Mr. Orson points out, forever. And we do have to be very careful about it. So
One thing to keep in mind, the applicant could, at the time they apply for special events, or frankly, any other time, also apply for an amendment to this section. That would be the clean way to allow it to be addressed again. But that would be, they could do that anytime, just anybody could, but they can bring in.
well, I almost wish we were dealing with both of the things together.
Yeah, that's,
The events and the special events together. I think that would.
To clarify, chapter 4 of the ordinance, the county ordinance, which is the noise ordinance, it says loud noises prohibited is the section, and it says it is unlawful for any person on Sunday through Thursday between the hours of 11 PM and 8 AM and the following day, and on Friday and Saturday between the hours of 11:59 PM and 8 AM the following day, and then it defines what is not allowed.
All right. Where are we, gentlemen, on this one?
On B there, should that be 9 PM? That's what I think it should be 9. Since it's blue. And there aren't too many outdoor events that go on with amplified music. It's not like it could become one, but I don't think it's gonna be a nightly party facility with bands playing till 9 o'clock. Jason Hofstetter, half the time I don't even think he has an amp when he plays over there. But more acoustic, but it could change. But I think amplified music could end by 9 o'clock. The neighbors can go to bed and not have to hear it, and the people can either move inside or sit around outside until the club kicks them out.
Okay.
I guess that's my question. Are you changing B from 10 PM to 9 PM? Oh, B.
I believe they would be redundant if we kept both of them at this point.
well, I mean, there could be other things from outside events other than,
I see.
amplified
Yeah,
music.
I think it's fine. A lot of people think, sit around outside. I don't think it would be a problem
We're doing 9 PM.
for the amplified outside. They can go inside and. I totally agree with you. I'm sorry, I can't. She just changed B from 10 to 9. So all outdoor events must be completed by 9 PM. Would be the same for amplified music, must be completed by 9 PM. I think 10's fine.
Well, yeah, I don't think the intent was to change,
I'm
not
on-
from what I heard.
I apologize. I thought I
Yeah,
heard you.
because, it's not like you can turn a switch and everybody's gonna leave. So this gives them time to. All right.
Hmm?
How long is lime kiln?
Could you also
That-
see if you
that's a
can
good-
make that
probably
blue
around
again? Because I think that,
honestly.
that section was blue.
You're kind of in that
This,
mode.
B.
Or was it? Oh, no, that, I'm sorry, that,
It
you're
doesn't
just doing the
just-
changes, never mind. Never mind.
Okay, what do we got? Number 11.
Okay, we are now on to number 11. I did not hear any.
No.
And number 12. So, should we see a copy of this? Should we print a
think it-
copy?
I think it's very prudent to, at minimum, read them back now, or
Can I make the suggestion that we get a copy, we print, you go over, the staff goes over that, and would it be possible if we moved on and then came back to that while you did that work?
For tonight, still done tonight.
Yes. I would like to complete it tonight. I would like to give our staff a few minutes to come up with our copy.
can you just print it off?
Later tonight.
Okay.
Would you like us, you notice we have that one section, section 3, should we move down to 11, to the 10 that was deleted, or should we leave it at 3? Which would change all the numbering like.
Oh,
we have
feel
up
free
here.
to change the numbering.
Oh, no, I'm just, right now, the way it is, we have it at 3. And that 3 we addressed when we talked about number 10 on the planning commission one. So the planning commission had removed the noise deadlines. And so, and the order we talked in, and we had this as the last. Are you fine with the order that we have here? Does that, it's the same language?
Whatever staff
Okay,
feels,
okay, so we can-
whatever, yes. Can,
And if we.
I think that we can take a look, and if it's clear, we can at least think about it. or we can-
Vivica, you'd need to print out enough
right?
to put out here if we're giving
Can you
it
do
to the board supervisor.
Well, we might need it after we see it. Oh,
Can you run up and get them off? the printer?
so would that be all right if we move on to the appointments while we wait?
Sure.
Okay. Let's do it.
Need to know Mr. Lewis left.
Am I?
You've got a lot of appointments.
I do. I'm looking for the page, actually. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, yeah. All right, we have appointments. We'll start with the Blue Ridge Criminal Justice Board, Spencer and Jared Moon. Term expires June 30th.
Move to reappoint both gentlemen.
All right, Mr. Lyons, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Day? Yes. Mr. Lewis, absent, and I vote yes. Move on to Rockbridge Regional Communications Center Management Board, 911 Board. Mickey Cochran and Richard Taylor, term expires June 30th. Is there a motion to reappoint?
I assume they're,
Everybody on this list has agreed to be
I'll make a
on
motion to
the list.
reappoint. Second.
Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Lyons, Mr. Day, and I vote yes. Railroad Board, Chris Cartwright and Paige Owens, terms expire June 30th. Is there a motion to reappoint both of these gentlemen?
So move.
For second,
Yeah.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Mr. Day. Mr. McDaniel. And I vote yes. Mountain Gateway Community College Board of Directors, Jason Coleman, term expires June 30th.
Motion to reappoint.
Second.
Mr. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Library Board of Trustees, Robert Kramer, term expires June 30th.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel. And I vote yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board of Zoning Appeals, Greg Mullen, term expires May 12th. We better get on it. Is there a motion to reappoint?
Second.
Mr. Day, Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
and I vote yes. We have TCO, Jason Harris, terms expired July 8th.
Motion to reappoint.
Second.
And Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Lyons,
Yes.
Mr. Day, and I vote yes. Local Board of Building Code Appeals, George Bizold. Term expires July 13th.
Move to reappoint.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mr. Lyons,
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right, we can move on to the monthly staff reports. Is there,
Move to accept the reports.
all right, Mr. Lyons,
Second.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Are there any board comments? Unfinished business while we wait. Sure.
Madam Chair, would it be possible for us to take like a 5-minute recess?
Very nice idea. Yes, we're going to take a 5-minute recess.
For anyone watching, we'll be back in about 5 minutes.
meeting.
Okay, could you do that one more time? I just turned the. Thank you.
We are reconvening our meeting. Are you with us, Mr. Whitmore?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so we have now a printed copy of what we believe to be the changes. Please, as the board, I'll just go through them.
Bear with me while I get it up on the screen. It's taking just a second.
Okay. And the idea would be that if there's consensus as we get to one of these, Vivica will accept the changes as we go. Changes are in blue, with the exception of a couple strikeouts. Is that what you'd like to do?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes. Lead us through this process.
Okay, so there was no suggested change to condition 1. There was no suggested change to condition 2. Condition 3, events which are allowed as accessory uses under the definition of country club shall be subject to the following conditions. Any amplified music not within an enclosed structure must end by 9 p.m. And B, all outdoor events must be concluded by 10 p.m. Unless there are objections, if there are any, and then Vivica won't accept it. If there are, if we're good.
Well, I will put out, I think there needs to be a limit to events if you're talking about amplified music or outdoor events to 10 p.m. I understand that I'm in the minority, so we will move on if I'm the only one that feels this way, but that is how I feel. I think 10 o'clock with the potential of being outside 10 o'clock on every Sunday, every day of the summer is perhaps too much in the neighborhood, but I will move on. Go ahead.
Okay. So Vivica, if you can accept that change, okay. Number 4, compliance with section 1303.03, general lighting requirements, section 13.0304, general design requirements, and section 1303.05, parking lot lighting of the Rockbridge County land development regulations. And then added, in addition to compliance with those, any lighting plan shall be subject to approval by the zoning administrator.
I think our intent was to say minimum compliance, at a minimum compliance with this and that might be adjusted with the applicant, and then any lighting plan shall be subject. So I would like the word at a minimum compliance with section 1303. So that it's clear what we're.
Is there any discussion among other board members of adding at a minimum compliance with section 1303, et cetera?
I don't care one way or the other. Isn't that what it's implying there when you say compliance of these 3?
To me, it doesn't necessarily mean that. It just means that you're saying it's compliant with this, but we had already said that that what we would like is that the applicant and our staff to work together to come up with something that might be slightly more restrictive than the ordinance. That's what we said.
But it can't be less restrictive. It has to at least be compliant. Correct?
No, that's what I mean. At a minimum, you have to comply with that, and you might need to comply with something a little more like the dark sky recommendations. Is that Mr. Dryden, do you want to?
No, that if we put at a minimum there, it just clarifies that's the minimum standard. So
Okay.
I think that's
Is
acceptable to do
is that a reasonable thing to do?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, speaking from a legal point of view, yeah, all these things you can do. It'd be reasonable and acceptable to do that.
Thank you. Go ahead, unless there's
Yes.
discussion.
Have we, is everybody good with that?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so you can accept that one, Vivica. Sorry. All right, no recommended change to number 5 nor 6. 7, I believe, is the same as. Oh, Vivica, on number 7, at minimum, please change the period after minimum to a comma. I'll read it. I don't think there was any change here, but at minimum, 8-foot fencing associated with eastern, western, and southern sides of the pickleball and or tennis courts shall have an acoustic panel system that is weather resistant and rated to reduce noise by 20 decibels. The design materials of the panel system shall be shown on the site plan. The panel system shall be maintained in good condition. We're good with that. We'll accept.
Do we need to be of concern of noise around the pool?
Some of the neighbors are, one thing that I had initially thought is that we would take one of the sides of the panels and you would put that on the other side, but I think at this point it might be. Is there something you would like to?
If no one else thinks we need to be concerned, that's fine.
So I hadn't heard, is anybody else, if you're concerned about the pool, then we can discuss. It is fenced. The pool is fenced, right? That is what the pool is fenced, clearly, right?
I would assume that it's got to be fenced. Applicant is affirming that it's fenced.
I think
I read somewhere a letter from one of the citizens that was one of his concerns, is noise, and I think he said pickleball court and the pool.
right. We've certainly dealt with the pickleball court. And unless you take that one wall of the pickleball court and put it on the outside edge, I think that I honestly don't know how to address that. I think that noise from a pool is very different than noise from a pickleball. I'm not saying that it's not important. I just think that it was the repetitive and the certain sound of pickleball that is particularly annoying to people's ears. How close, can you remind me how close that is to those houses?
Without doing it, I'd say, the pickleball?
No, the pool.
Would it be helpful if I show the site? Plan?
Yes, maybe we should.
Well, I can also measure it.
While they're doing that, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Of either one of you are concerned about the pool? I mean, are you or are you not thinking an 8-foot fence the same as a pickleball? I mean, that, because the pool, you're down in the ground at ground level.
As far as the height of the fence around the pool?
Yeah.
No, I'm not expecting that to be 8 foot.
Okay, good. What?
No.
But I wasn't. The vegetation that's shown in there on the, I guess, the property line on, who would that be, the southwest side on the pool? Is that a fence or just vegetation?
The pool is fenced, correct? Right. A double row of vegetation or a double row of additional?
Do you mind sipping up the mic so we can be on the record?
Is
Probably people can't
is
catch
that on the site plan? The double, yeah, okay.
You can see it off to the side here, on each side of the section.
Right. Are you?
Estimating, you asked how far it is, just estimating from the closest home to the pool. It, I'm not able to measure on the PDF, but I'm superimposing it the best I can onto the, our GIS. And it's between 100 and 125 feet, looks to me. Across on the other side of Grover.
Counting the road, is that? Right?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Is there any more
Any
discussion?
recommendation there? Okay.
Okay, so will that be acceptance as is for number 7?
I'm good with it. I don't know about everybody else.
Mr. Day, or you want to move on from number 7?
Yeah, that's fine.
Number 8.
Okay, so accept number 7, please. Number 8, water and deleting and sediment. So water testing of streams shall take place prior to the first application of chemicals and fertilizers and between 3 and 7 days after the final application of chemicals and fertilizers. Pre and post application water testing, removing sediment. Pre and post application water testing for glyphosate compliant with EPA method 547, PFAS compliant with EPA method 1633, heavy metals, cadmium, chromium changed, lead, mercury, nitrate, nitrite compliant with EPA method 353 shall be performed. Samples shall be performed at 3 points of surface water streams at the point of entry to LGCC W&L Joint Venture LLC property and at the point where Woods Creek exits said property. And then deleting water samples shall be taken from the water column. Sediment testing shall be taken from the top 1 or 2 inches of the bed of pond A and point 1. That piece is deleted. The pre-testing shall be performed prior to the first application of glyphosate. I'm gonna say it right. Glyphosate associated with the initial killing of grass on the golf course. The post-testing for glyphosate shall take place between 3 to 7 days after each application of glyphosate. Associated with the killing of the grass after the reconstruction of the golf course, annual testing shall be performed at least once annually during the months of June, July, or August for a minimum of 5 years. And adding, all tests shall be shared with the Office of Community Development, and the applicant must also make tests publicly available within 7 days of the applicant's receipt of test results. And then costs associated with the pre and post water and then strike sediment. Testing of streams shall be borne by LGCC, W&L Joint Venture LLC, or the subsequent landowner. All tests shall be performed by an independent and certified laboratory.
Vivica, could you remove that dash after the first sentence and put a period? chemicals and fertilizers, period, and then remove the dash.
Okay, for number 9, if it's okay, I'll just read the portion that's changed here. First we put chromium.
Are we good to approve all the changes on?
Oh, sorry.
Number 8.
Yes. Is there any additional discussion or request to change anything else on number 8?
I'm okay with that.
Good. Okay, we got 2 that said they were good with that. I don't know if there's anybody. Are y'all waiting on me or?
We are, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just heard 2. All right. Okay, this next one, just going over what was changed, chromium. And then we've got added additionally, owners of wells used as a potable water source located within 1,000 feet of the property lines owned by LGCC W&L Joint Venture LLC shall be offered the opportunity to have their wells tested pre and post application. The applicant shall make its best effort to notify all landowners within the stated area as determined by the Office of Community Development based on public records about this option, and at minimum shall utilize certified mail. Landowners who wish to have their wells tested shall notify the applicant in writing within 14 days of the postmark date on the certified mailing, and shall grant right of entry to their property for the purpose of pre and post testing of their well. After reconstruction of the golf course, testing shall be performed once during the months of June, August, or July. The results of all tests shall be shared with the landowner requesting the tests within 7 days of the applicant's receipt of the testing results. Cost associated with the pre and post water testing of wells, removed sediments, and of streams. So it would read cost associated with the pre and post water testing of wells shall be borne by LGCCW&L Joint Venture or subsequent owner. All tests shall be performed by an independent and certified laboratory.
Just for clarification, I did add a dash after pre and post, both times, pre and post application.
If you could add the word if you look up where it says LLC after the 1,000 feet line, shall be offered the opportunity.
Did I understand at the last meeting that the city of Lexington opted to do nothing but whatever the county wanted to do on taking any actions? What I'm getting at, and I don't know if there is any wells within the city of Lexington or not, I don't see where we have any jurisdiction over that.
I do not know.
To answer the Lexington question, it was my understanding that they did not have any, that their regulations did not require any additional steps by the country club in order to pursue the renovation.
If I can clarify, the list prepared by the Office of Community Development of the properties with 1,000 feet are county properties.
Correct. We do not personally have the records for the city of Lexington.
And I might also add on the wells, that information is from the county side and not the health department side. They don't have the ability to readily access digital records for that purpose. It would all be paper form to verify those wells.
But wouldn't we, I mean, I understand, I think I understand where Mr. Day is going, but I mean, we're only concerned with county residents. The city can take care of city residents however they choose, right?
Yeah, we have no, I think to answer the question, we have no authority or any ability to impose our regulations on city residents.
But I'm sure if something's for free and they're close by, they'll reach out. They'll get a hold of the applicant and request a testing. So
Yeah, but
then it's up to the applicant to decide whether they want to do it.
yeah, our regulation won't impose the requirement to do this.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, my thoughts are that's going to take action from the city of Lexington, but maybe not.
I guess you could clarify it and just say, well, no, it already says samples
We need to do anything.
taken on all wells in the properties owned by, okay. Additionally, owners of wells within the county.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything we need to do, but I just.
Yeah, I mean, we could add language there, but it's by law, there's nothing we can,
No, I don't.
we couldn't force it.
I guess the reason I brought it up is to make them aware of it.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, is any other question on that one?
And I apologize, are we adding the language of the county or leaving it as is? Wells within the county or leaving it as is?
I'd say as is.
Yeah, I think we left it as is. Okay, there was no, is everybody okay with this one? With that one?
Yes.
Okay. So number 10, there were no changes. Number 11, there were no changes, and number 12, there were no changes. You just want to, for the record, just pan down.
My apologies.
That's okay.
So, how comfortable, gentlemen, are you with what we have before us? Staff, how comfortable are you with us proceeding with this?
I've stated my one concern, and I think it's fine.
Mhm. Anybody have any concerns? Mr. Whitmore, do you have any concerns that there are things that we have hastily, or do you feel that we have been thorough tonight?
At this point, I feel the board has been thorough. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to say anything? Offer anything?
Well,
No,
I know it took a long time and all, but I mean, I think this is a good act by this board. You know, we listened to the residents, we discussed the matters, we talked them out, we came to a final conclusion. Some things you may like, some things you may not. That's just the way it goes. Having said that, you know, with the changes that have been presented, I'll make a motion that we accept.
And I'll second that motion.
Yeah, the motion should be that we make a motion to adopt the ordinance.
Adopt the
Granting the
ordinance.
special exception with the conditions as amended.
So moved.
And I will second it.
okay. Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Lyon.
Yes.
Mr. Day,
No,
and I vote yes. And that will, thank you all very much. I want to thank everybody that has spent all this time weighing in. It really has been a collaborative to get to where we are, and thank the applicant for all of your hard work, and of course our staff who has been wonderful. Thank you.
Neil,
Move
thank
to-
you for interrupting your break to be with us. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome. I appreciate that.
You reckon he thought he was gonna spend that much time?
All right. And
I'll
now,
make a motion to adjourn.
thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Day? And I vote yes.